Naruto's Strongest Gentleman Training System Chapter 1. Naruto, the Strongest Gentleman Cultivation System Author, Kaiyun Fufu. Chin Wuyue, a pseudo-house on Earth, traveled to the world of Hokage and awakened the legendary Goldfinger. The system is very violent and works flawlessly. As long as you complete the optional tasks, you can directly obtain super powerful items of cultivation, abilities, ninjutsu and other planes. But Wuyue couldn't be happy at all, and even had the idea of wanting to die with this scumbag. "You pervert, wearing my camisole again," a certain elder sister roared loudly. "Take it, this is the fat time I just changed in the morning," a certain senior said expressionlessly. "Jun Wuyue, it's time to collect material again, take off your pants," a certain wife next door lit up. "If you dare to steal again, I will break your third leg." A certain beautiful master shook his fist with a cold expression. "I'm really not a pervert, I'm being forced, you believe me?" Wuyue burst into tears, looking up at the sky at a 45-degree angle. Chapter 0001. Life always has to face difficult choices. Choose, dear host. 1. My ideal is to make my sister pregnant with my child. 2. My ideal is to make all middle-aged and elderly women in this world kneel under my roots. 3. Take off the teacher's pants in front of the whole class. The prompt sound in his mind made Wuyue like being struck by lightning. These three options, such as any one, are enough to make him fall into the abyss of despair. How did that happen? I finally traveled to the world I liked, I finally found someone I wanted to protect, and I finally awakened my golden finger, but why, how did things develop to this point? Mizuki Yuhi, classmate. Not realizing that his students were caught in some kind of strange entanglement, the Chunin teacher on the stage frowned and said, "It's just to introduce your own future ideals to everyone. Does it take so long to think about it?" Hearing this slightly unpleasant voice, Wuyue finally regained her senses, and there was a hint of helplessness in her eyes. "This is so related to your future direction, can you not think about it?" It seems a bit wrong to say that. I feel that no matter which option I choose, my future will be related to the word pervert and cannot be separated from it. Day of the Dog. What kind of weird system is this, Nima, and why is the style of painting so strange? Me, I don't want to be a pervert. Wuyue wailed in her heart, while silently discussing with the system. Well, can I choose not to? Ding. The host's negative intentions are detected, and the chakra seal begins 10 seconds later. 10, 9, 8, 7. Chakra seal. Wuyue was suddenly shocked. Don't, I choose. In this dangerous world, in an era full of malice, if chakra is sealed, it would be better to hang on to the southeast branch, 100%. Hearing the countdown sound disappearing instantly, Wuyue finally breathed a sigh of relief. No matter how reluctant he was in his heart, he could only bite the bullet. Cough cough, my ideal, to make my sister pregnant with my child. Silence. Just as he spoke, the entire classroom fell into silence. All the classmates, including the Chunin teacher on the stage, all turned their dull eyes to the handsome boy, with his mouth wide open, as if he could put an egg. Awesome. This ideal is so awesome. Even if the children of this world are relatively precocious, they cannot withstand such an impact. Let my sister conceive her own child. Well, even if everyone here knows that they are not siblings, this is too shocking. Simply perverted. As the elder sister of the party, a red-eyed loli sitting in the corner was even more unbelievable. Her pretty face, which was originally as white as jade, gradually turned bright red, then turned purple, and finally turned blue. You can imagine the shocking twists and turns her heart has gone through. Wuyue, who had a panoramic view of everyone's expressions, felt a burst of bitterness in her heart. But things have developed to this point, and it is impossible to retreat. That, Wuyue-kun. The corners of the Chunin teacher's mouth twitched slightly, and she tried to slow down her tone. Your ideal, the teacher really can't comment on it. However, you are still young, shouldn't you put your mind on such an idea? Well, is there something wrong with my ideals? Wuyue pretended to be ignorant and looked at everyone present, as if she didn't know how deviant what she just said was. I remember a book that said that if you like someone, you should let her have her own child. Sure enough, was it taught badly by those bad books? Hearing this, the Chunin teacher did not suspect him, and finally heaved a sigh of relief. Student Wuyue, your future will be a ninja fighting on the battlefield. It's better to read less of those extracurricular books. Oh, I see, teacher. Wuyue nodded and sat back to her seat. Fortunately, he has just turned 7 years old now. In the eyes of adults, although that kind of perverted ideal is a bit strange, it is only a joke from a child and should not be taken seriously. But, looking at the sullen red-eyed lowly, Wuyue covered her forehead helplessly. This is the most troublesome. If I don't give her a satisfactory explanation, I'm afraid this day will not be over. Your sister. Why put on such a system yourself? Return the goods. I want to return it. Wuyue screamed wildly in her heart, but the system's prompt sounded at this moment. Congratulations to the host for completing the initial selection, obtaining the Konoha Flow primary body technique, and increasing the progress of chakra cultivation by 10 days. Wuyue was startled all over, a look of astonishment appeared on her face. Actually, there is such an operation. He closed his eyes and sensed for a moment, only to feel that there was an indescribable message in his mind, Biao Lianhua, Konoha Chongquan, Konoha Whirlwind. All the physical techniques of Konoha Flow were all mastered by him. Not only that, the amount of chakra that was originally weak has also expanded a lot. Chapter 0002 Special Bet. The sky gradually dimmed, and the afterglow of the sunset poured in, and the golden soft light enveloped the entire Konoha. Jingle bell. With the sound of a crisp bell, the students of the ninja school packed up their belongings and walked out of the school gate in 2s and 3s. Yuhi Wuyue, I have something to tell you. Wuyue, who was packing her bags, suddenly heard an angry voice. Wuyue raised her head and saw a short-haired boy in a blue long shirt. The appearance is not outstanding, but the figure is quite strong among his peers. At this moment, the boy's eyes looked at Wuyue's cheeks full of provocation. Asma Sarutobi, what do you want to say to me? Wuzuki asked with narrowed eyes. He also didn't have a good face for this short-lived ghost who wanted to be his brother-in-law, even if the other party was the son of the third generation. It doesn't matter if the so-called ideal you said today is serious or just playing. In short, let's fight with me. Sarutobi Asma said in a cold tone, the losing party should stop thinking badly about Hong. Already. You seem to be making me laugh. Wuyue sneered and said, it's always you who thinks badly about my sister. Don't think I don't know, you are playing this game now. Yes, I want to kick my little brother out of the game first. Certainly not. Asma seemed to be struck by something, and her face flushed. She shouted, how could I have such thoughts? I just want to protect your sister. So that she won't be harassed by you pervert. Yes, that's it. Haha. Wuyue gave a sneer of unknown meaning. This little brat dares to play tricks in front of himself. Is his hair long? Asma's scalp was numb from his laughter, but she said calmly, don't say anything else. I'll ask you if you dare to accept my challenge. Wuyue raised her brows and was about to speak, when she heard a clear scolding, Asma. Are you bullying my brother? As the voices of Wuyue and Asma gradually increased, the surrounding students who had not left also cast their doubts and curiosity. Of course, including Yuhika. No, Red. Seeing Kurenai Yuhi approaching slowly, Asma's voice suddenly became a little unfavorable, and she blushed. It's just that this guy dares to say such a thing today. I want to teach him a small lesson. That's it. This fool. Wuyue wanted to cover her face at this moment. This IQ still learns from other people to pick up girls. How did Hong Yuri in the original book like him? Sure enough, just as Asma's voice fell, Yui Hong's complexion suddenly changed. She first glanced at Wuyue angrily, then looked at Asma expressionlessly and said, why do you say such a thing? Even if I want to discipline my brother, I don't need your intervention. It was only then that Asma realized that there was indeed a big problem with what she just said. Without going through the brain at all, I spit out what I wanted to say in my heart, and it was a complete failure. But the words have already been spoken, and if you want to take them back, I am afraid it is impossible. Then, only. Thinking of this, Asma turned his head suddenly, looked at Wu Yue and said, "Are you going to hide behind your sister all the time? Like a coward?" Wu Yue was stunned for a moment, not understanding what kind of wind this guy was suddenly pumping. Just as he was about to speak, he heard Hong Yuhi say angrily, "Asma Sarutobi. What do you mean?" "It's nothing." Asma deliberately said it loudly so that the whole class could hear it. "In a few days, the finals of the year-end assessment will be held. I want to make Yuhi Mizuki as my opponent." It turned out to be so. Wu Yue finally understood what he was thinking. This guy is trying to force himself to submit. As soon as he said it, he taught himself a lesson. Second, he was obsessed with the gambling contract just now. It's not fair. Hong Yuhi directly refused for Wu Yue. It wasn't long before Wu Yue started to condense chakra, and he can't be your opponent at all. But, Yuhi Wuzuki-san has already agreed to my challenge, right? Asma gritted her teeth and looked at Wuzuki, the threat in her eyes was quite clear. Wu Yue was naturally not afraid of the threat of this little brat, but the voice that suddenly sounded in his mind made the corners of his mouth twitch. "Choose, dear host. 1. Agreeing to the challenge and betting on her sister's fat times. 2. Agreeing to the challenge, the loser strips naked and runs 20 laps around the Konoha playground. 3. Take off your underwear/pants and put it on Sarubi Asma's head. Day of the dog." Wu Yue gritted her teeth fiercely, looked at Asma and said, "Yes, I did agree to his challenge. Moreover, we also made an agreement that if anyone loses, they will take off their clothes and walk around the wood. Yi playground runs 20 laps. Eh. As soon as this statement came out, everyone including Hong Yuhi and Asma was in an uproar. Isn't this guy Yuri Wu Yue crazy, and he dares to make such an agreement? Didn't he know that Sarutobi Asma was the first in the assessment at the end of last year? Is he deliberately trying to embarrass himself? I thought of a picture of a little boy stripping cleanly and running around the Konoha playground under the setting sun. Everyone inexplicably began to look forward to it. Chapter 0003 Don't Talk, Kiss Me. Are you serious? Sarutobi Asma stared at Wu Yue and asked word by word. Of course, isn't this what we said just now? Wu Yue smiled unmoved. Congratulations to the host for completing the selection, the chakra cultivation base has been improved for 10 days. The system's prompt sounded again. Wu Yue was not happy at all, and the bitterness in her heart was beyond words. Although he doesn't want to choose any of these 3 options, the second one is slightly more stable than the super shocking effect that the first and third options will cause. Even if they really lost, at their age, Luoban is not unacceptable. Very good, I look forward to your performance. Asma nodded, turned and left without saying anything. Let's go home too. Wu Yue said to her sister. Okay. Yuhi Kung seemed to have reacted just now, and nodded numbly. Twilight gradually rendered the entire sky. On the long street of Konoha, boys and girls walk side by side, and the breeze gently blows the ends of their hair, which is really a harmonious picture. Harmony shit. Wu Yue secretly glanced at her elder sister, who was staring at him with an unprecedented strange look, which filled his heart with pressure. Well, what's the matter, just say it. You are very strange. Yuhika squinted her eyes, and spit out her lips. Today, you feel completely different from before. With this pitiful and perverted system, it would be strange to be the same as before. Wu Yue complained in her heart, but said on Zue, yes, is it? Maybe I have grown up. What kind of upbringing would make you say that strange ideal? Yuhi Hong asked twitchingly. Speaking of which, what novels have you been reading these days? This. Wu Yue thought for a moment, suddenly her eyes lit up, and she said, I found it on my father's bookcase, it's called Intimacy Paradise. Intimacy in Heaven? Yuhi Kung frowned and said, it's not a serious novel when you hear it. This kind of thing that teaches bad children will be banned in the future. Have you heard? Your tone doesn't look like a sister at all, it's like a conservative old mother. Wu Yue rubbed her brows and nodded honestly, okay. Choose, dear host. 1. if I don't read novels, should I watch my sister's fat times? Second, I actually want to lie on the chuang and watch it with my dear sister. Naruto's Strongest Gentleman Training System Chapter 2. 3. Don't talk, kiss me. Snapped. Wuyue was rubbing the palm of her eyebrows, and suddenly slapped her forehead. That, my elder sister. What's wrong? Don't talk, kiss me. Bang. A muffled sound. Kurenai Yuhi's fist smashed onto Wuyue's forehead impartially, and said angrily, I don't remember a guy who taught you to be such a pervert. After speaking, he turned around without looking back. Walk. Life is all over again. Wuyue felt that her future was full of gloom. This system is going to put him to death. Congratulations to the host for completing the task, the physical cultivation base has increased by 10 days. An explosive sense of power spread from every cell of Wuyue. Although he used to exercise regularly, he only obtained Konoha's primary physical skills today, and then he suddenly increased his cultivation for 10 days, which is why he felt like an explosion like a blowout. However, such an increase in strength is not what Wuyue wants at all. This is completely exchanged for morality. How can it make people happy? Kurenai Yuhi, who was walking in front of Wuyue, turned her head and saw her brother's pained face, and she was instantly stunned. Could it be that you heard him just now? Probably, not so. Besides, even if he really heard him, he was the one who said, kiss me, first. How is it possible for a sister and brother to kiss? However, for his pitiful sake. Thinking of this, Hong Yuhi turned around and walked in front of Wuyue. She took out her little hand, put it on his forehead, and rubbed it lightly. Forget it this time, don't say that to my sister again in the future. Well. Wuyue was stunned by her actions, and after reacting to it, she almost cried. It is because of such a gentle, kind, and lovely sister that Wuyue will try her best to improve her strength to protect her. But, elder sister, those things are really not what I want to say, you believe me. Naturally, Hong Yuhi didn't know the desperate cry in her brother's heart, but thought of another question. By the way, Wuzuki. You made the bet with Sarutobi Asma yourself, right? Although he doubted, he used a positive tone. Yes. Wuyue nodded and said, I don't want that short life. That guy has been pestering my sister. If I win this time, he should have no face to talk to my sister again. For her younger brother's behavior of defending herself, Yuri Hong was very useful, but she still asked worriedly, you used to be weak, that is, you have only started to gather chakra recently, no matter how talented you are, it is impossible. Asma's opponent. Although that guy is a rogue, he is still very strong. Don't worry, sister. I'll win. Well, probably. Let's get rid of that one. I'm even more worried when you say that. Under the setting sun, the silhouettes of a pair of siblings were drawn very long, very long. Chapter 0004 Sleeping Beauty. It is often said that dreams are some kind of intuitive reflection of human beings on real life. But for Wuyue, the dream is a special bridge that carries his past life and this life. In the dream, Wuyue returned to the earth that was full of traffic and high-rise buildings. At that time, he was an ordinary company employee, living a normal 9-to-5 life. If the only thing that is different from other people in society is the fact that he is still an old fake house. At that time, Wuyue used the world of the second dimension as his spiritual sustenance. The first thing he did when he got home from get-off work every day was to sit in front of the computer and chase after him. Naruto is his favorite hot-blooded manga. Of course, just like the thousands of otakus on Earth, he also fantasized that he would travel to the world of Hokage and become a peerless powerhouse who beats Kaguya with his feet. But when he woke up from a sleep and found that he had really completed the Robody crossing and turned into a child only 3 or 4 years old, he refused in his heart. The burning village and the blood-stained long knives of the bandits caused Wuyue an extremely terrifying psychological shadow. He struggled to escape, but someone held his head from behind, and the cold touch of the blade pressed against his neck. Wuyue didn't have the slightest doubt, and in the next second, he would drop the head. At this critical moment, a figure descended from the sky, slaughtering all the bandits with lightning speed, and saving Wuyue's humble and pitiful life. This person's name is Yuhi Mahong. That is Wu Yue's current adoptive father. I don't know why, maybe it's the fate between people. At the first sight of Wu Yue, Yuhi Jinhong had the idea of adopting him. This is simply unbelievable for a ninja who is used to seeing life and death partings, especially an elite-level jonin like Yuhi Mahong. But a miracle happened in the end. The Yuhi family has since added a man, and Yuhi Hong, who was originally an only daughter, also has a very cute younger brother. Yuri Wu Yue, who has returned to a peaceful life, is very grateful, and he really regards everyone in the Yuhi family as his important relatives. And swore an oath to gain strength to protect them no matter what. But unfortunately, it seems that because the body suddenly became smaller and could not carry his decades-old spirit and soul, Wu Yue chakra's cultivation was extremely difficult. It wasn't until his 7th birthday a few days ago that the situation eased. Compared to most children in this world, Moonless started too late. But he was not discouraged at all, and was full of longing for the future. However, the appearance of a certain pit father's golden finger once again plunged him into the abyss of despair. No, I don't want to be a pervert. I'm not a pervert. Wu Yue seemed to hear the systems whisper again. The dreadful options were listed in his mind and he woke up suddenly. Opening his eyes, he saw the familiar ceiling of his room, and he breathed a sigh of relief. It turned out to be a dream, really a frightening dream. As he spoke, he suddenly felt something and turned his head slightly. What caught my eye was the delicate and fair face of Yuhika. The thick hair fell down, covering the left half of Yuhika's face. Her eyes were gently closed, and the sound of even and rhythmic breathing slowly came out of her nostrils. Obviously, the little girl was sleeping very sweetly at this time. She was wearing a thin camisole on her upper body, and 2 delicate collarbones stood out under her delicate, snow-white pink neck. And her lower body is just a pale white chubby, and her slender legs are completely exposed to Wu Yue's sight. Is this, sleepwalking again? Wu Yue tilted her head slightly, not daring to look any further. In fact, in the past 6 months, the fact that my elder sister would sleepwalk has happened every now and then. The original Wu Yue naturally has no special thoughts. Because all along, he has only regarded Yuhi Hiro as his relatives. And the other party is only 9 years old. As a mature man with normal 3 views and a pure heart, Wu Yue naturally does not have the attribute of low *IC**N. But after yesterday's incident, she actually said that kind of perverted ideal in front of the whole class. Wu Yue has found that she is starting to be a little unable to look directly at such a picture. In my mind, some strange ideas even pop up from time to time. No. Not like this. Wu Yue shook her head secretly. That's not my original idea, it's just a choice forced by a certain system. This girl is my sister. Lovely sister. Turning her head again, looking at Kurenai Yuhi's sleeping face, Wu Yue had a sincere smile on her face. But in the next second, that smile turned bitter. Choose, my dear host. 1. Violently pull up your sister and let her give you an unforgettable good morning bite. 2. Give my sister a hot and strong kiss to wake up the sleeping beauty. 3. Take off your sister's fat time and put it on your head and continue to sleep. Wu Yue clenched her teeth fiercely, her face was blue, and after struggling for a few seconds, she finally closed her eyes as if resigned, and put her Zoe up. Chapter 0005 The Qualified Gentleman. Well. In her sleep, Hong Yuhi felt that something had pried open her, and she was attacking the city all the way, stirring her mouth. This wonderful touch made her feel very strange, and almost subconsciously, she used her little tongue and head to resist the attack of a foreign object, but as a result, the two were intertwined with each other, and bursts of tisk were heard. The sound of Kurenai Yuhi finally opened her eyes, and what appeared in her line of sight was Wu Yu's face that was so close at hand. What's going on? Yuri blushed in confusion. Are you still dreaming? Yes, it must be so. Is this just thinking about the day and dreaming at night? However, since it's a dream, it shouldn't matter if you're a little bolder. Thinking of this, Yuri Hong actually began to actively cater to her, and even wrapped her arms around Wu Yue's neck without being taught. Wu Yue was made a little hairy by her actions, and unconsciously retracted her siege weapon. When he raised his head, the position where the two met at the corners gradually opened a crystal silk thread. With the click of the silk thread, it fell on Yuhika's chin, and the sticky feeling of Shirshir finally made the little loli react. All this, it turned out to be no dream at all. Ah, you pervert. An angry voice resounded throughout the Yuhika's house. Afterwards, after hearing two muffled bangs, Hong Yuhi slammed out the door and returned to her room. Ugh! Touching the bulging mass on his forehead, Wu Yue huddled in the corner of the chuang couch with a face full of vicissitudes, with an expression of wanting to cry but unable to cry. This time, I won't be forgiven. I'm sorry, big sister. As she muttered to herself, Wu Yue exuded a black aura called despair. Congratulations to the host for completing the option. The physical cultivation base has been increased by 10 days, and the chakra cultivation base has been increased by 10 days. The annoying voice of the system sounded as expected. It's time to eat, Wu Yue, Hong. Haruko Yuhi, also known as Wu Yue's adoptive mother, called from downstairs. Don't eat. I do not want to eat. The voices of Wuzuki and Yuhika answered at the same time. Are you still going to continue? Don't play too much, it's not good for your health. Yuhi Haruko's voice sounded again, but the words were full of whimsical meanings. I think it's not what you think it is. Yuhi Mahong twitched and expressed her opinion. One of them is 9 years old, and the other is only 7 years old. No matter how you think about it, you can't do anything out of the ordinary. However, Haruko Yuhi didn't seem to listen at all, her eyes blurred, and she covered her face with one hand and said, the children are all grown up. The sky is blue with white clouds. The noon sun swayed on the training ground in the southwest corner of Konoha, and the sparkling river surface reflected silver-white light. On the bank next to the river, the 7 or 8-year-old boy looked coldly at the giant tree in front of him. His fists fell on the surface of the tree like raindrops, making a muffled sound of bang bang bang. This is the most basic punch in Konoha fluid technique. Known for being fierce and quick, the key is to mobilize the strength of the whole body to attack one point, easy to use but difficult to master. It was unexpected that every punch the boy threw in front of him could actually leave a mark that was neither deep nor shallow on the surface of the giant tree. If it was seen by others, it would be a big surprise. Obviously, the boy has practiced this punch to the realm of what he wants. If he uses chakra, I am afraid that 3 punches can break the entire tree trunk, which even some chunin can't do. Boy, it is Wu Yue. Since it's a weekend off, I don't have to go to class. While staying at home, I was afraid that I would feel embarrassed to see my sister, so I went to the training ground closest to my home to test my strength results. Not bad. If divided according to the level of ninja, he has almost reached the realm of elite ninja. If you say it, you will probably drop your jaw. You know, he just condensed chakra a few days ago. This explosive speed of improvement can no longer be described by the word genius, it is completely a monster. But Wu Yue still had a bitter face and couldn't be happy at all. In his words, the strength of this suit was all acquired with the integrity he had accumulated for decades, and now he has been labeled as a pervert and can never be removed. Thinking like this, the expression on Wu Yue's face became more and more depressed, and the speed and strength of his fists became more and more powerful. In the end, he jumped up suddenly, his right leg came out, and drew a mysterious trajectory in the air. Leaf whirlwind. The right leg slammed hard against the surface of the giant tree, making a muffled sound. Immediately, only a crisp, click sound was heard, and the trunk with a diameter of about 1 meter broke off from the middle and crashed to the ground. Looking at the scattered sawdust and green leaves, Wu Yue let out a savage breath. Just as he was about to turn around and leave, he saw a delicate, small figure standing behind him, looking at him with a strange look. Chapter 0006 Senior Sister Gao Leng. It was a little girl with long straight black hair. Say it is Jiao Shao, that is for adults. The 7-year-old Wu Yue was in front of her, at least half a head shorter than her. From this, it can be judged that the little girl is at least 9 years old. This little girl has a typical melon seed face. Under her long eyelashes, two black pearl-like pupils stare at Wu Yue quietly. With a pretty nose and thin lips, she looks like a delicate porcelain doll. She was wearing a refreshing dress with hollow mesh socks on her legs, giving a wonderful visual impact. What an incredible loli. After she grows up, she must be a beauty at the level of harming the country and the people. Even if it is compared to her elder sister, I am afraid that it is not much less. There was a flash of Jingyan in Wu Yue's eyes, and she commented secretly in her heart. It's just that the expression on this loli's face didn't fluctuate at all. Could it be a facial paralysis? That. Just when Wu Yue was about to say something, the loli opposite suddenly said, "Your physical skills are very good. It's stronger than most of the ninjas I've seen." Eh? Wu Yue was stunned for a moment, then lowered her head shyly. To be praised by such a cute loli, even if he claims to be not loli controlled, he is a little embarrassed. But then, this loli's next sentence made him a little unhappy. However, if you want to become a good ninja, you can't do it with physical skills alone. Your training method is meaningless at all. Hey, what the is your natural tone? Who told you that you can't be a good ninja with taijutsu alone? Do you know the name of Dark Knight Kai? Wu Yue complained in her heart, but said calmly on the surface, "Thank you for your advice, but I don't agree with your point of view." Don't you agree? Little loli frowned slightly and said lightly, "You are the first person to tell me these 3 words. Isn't this girl too self-righteous?" Wu Yue took a sip, and didn't intend to pay any more attention to this loli who felt too good about herself. No matter how beautiful she is not interested in continuing the conversation with her. "Sorry, I still have something to do, I'll go first." "You are also a student of the ninja school." Loli stopped him from behind and asked in a flat tone. "Don't you know me? That said, are you some school idol?" "Everyone knows it." Naruto's Strongest Gentleman Training System Chapter 3. Wu Yue turned her head and looked at her with weird eyes. "I don't know." Lolita raised her chin and spit out her lips. "My name is Yui Uchiha." "What the hell? Is it really a campus idol?" The expression on Wu Yue's face suddenly became extremely wonderful. On the earth where he used to live, the boys and girls in the school chased the stars and looked at their faces and talents. In this war-torn world, if you want to become an idol, you rely on strength. Yui Uchiha is the one with the highest strength among the students of the ninja school. It is said that even the peerless genius Hatake Kakashi, who graduated early, is only half-baked. In fact, if it wasn't for Yui Uchiha who voluntarily stayed in school for 3 years for some reason, she could also graduate early. "It seems that you have indeed heard my name." Little loli looked at Wu Yue indifferently, and said indifferently, "Even so, do you still insist on your opinion? Could it be that everyone in the Uchiha family has this innate sense of superiority? No wonder they were exterminated." Confused in her heart, Wu Yue immediately restrained the stunned expression on her face, and nodded her head neither humbly nor arrogantly. "Yes, I don't think my opinion is wrong." "That's it." Little loli was silent for a moment, then looked directly at Wu Yue and said, "Tell me, your name." Suddenly asked her name. What does this little girl want? Wu Yu was a little puzzled. But no matter what, the other party has already announced his name first, and as a courtesy, he should not refuse. However, just as he was about to speak, the pitiful voice in his mind sounded again. "Choose, dear host. 1. For the first time, my name is Yuhi Wu Yue. Can you let me smell your fat times? 2. This uncle is called Yuri Wu Yue. From today onwards, you are my woman. 3. Take off your clothes and meet her frankly." Puff. Wu Yue almost spat out a mouthful of old blood. "Your brother-in-law. The first time we met, I planned to do these perverted things to others. What kind of trouble was going on? At the beginning, the first time we met, my name is Yuri Wu Yue." When she said this, Wu Yue trembled and trembled, wishing to find a crack in the ground to crawl into. "Yes, can you let me smell your fat times? It's over, it's over. My life is ruined." Wu Yue's face is full of grey defeat, and she has even closed her eyes, waiting for the attack of the other party's violent storm. Saying such words, I am afraid that being slapped is considered light. But he waited for a long time, but the expected pain did not come, which made Wuyue open his eyes, only to find that a certain loli was looking down, as if thinking about something. After a while, she seemed to have made a decision, and said indifferently, "People like you should be the perverts that Nanchuan and the others said. But, yes. If you can beat me, I can. Meet your request." Chapter 0007 Fierce Battle. Wuyue was shocked. I was completely shocked by the astonishing words of this loli in front of me. What did she just say? Okay. She actually agreed. Although the prerequisite is to defeat her by yourself, this is too much nonsense. That is a girl's most private and intimate underwear, how dare she use it as a bet? Should I say this is self-confidence? Or too innocent? Wuyue doesn't know, and doesn't want to know. He just put his hands together and said with a smile, "Well, I'm just joking, Yui-senpai." "Oh no, Senior Yui. Liven up the atmosphere, don't take it seriously." He just wanted to escape from the right and wrong place in front of him. He didn't even think about the sound of the task completion notification coming from his mind. My father said that as a man, words should be like poured water. Yui Uchiha's expression was still indifferent, and he said slowly, "It's too late to retreat now. Flip it over," and with a bang, a kunai shot out. Wuyue's eyes narrowed, and her body suddenly dodged to the side. The strand of hair that was brushing against his temples flew backwards. With a thud, it stuck on a tree trunk not far away. Are you serious?" Wuyue asked helplessly as she touched the missing piece of hair on the side of her face. "Next, it's your head." Uchiha Yui's expression was still cold. He took out 3 kunai directly from the ninja bag at his waist, and shot at Wuyue with a skillful technique. A cracking sound rang out. 3 kunai, from 3 different angles, stabbed straight towards Wuyue. The ruthlessness and accuracy of the force are simply not comparable to the students in the ninja school. Truly a top talent. Wuyue smiled bitterly, but her body movements were not slow. She swung her feet to the right, and at the same time took out several shuriken from the ninja bag and threw them quickly. Ding ding ding. A crisp sound of gold and iron colliding. The weight of an ordinary shuriken is much lighter than that of kunai, and Wuyue didn't have a good grasp of the strength in his haste, so Yui's 3 shuriken were not knocked into the air. But even so, it made them deviated from their original trajectory, spared Wuyue's body, and flew to the rear. However, Wuyue could not breathe a sigh of relief. Hearing the wind blowing from the back of his head, he bent down subconsciously, only to see the 3 shuriken sticking to his scalp again and flying back upside down. This is the art of manipulative. Wuyue finally reacted, raised her head, and sure enough she saw a few crystal-thin lines on Yui's palm. This made him a little annoyed, but also helpless. This is to put myself to death. Revenge, it's definitely revenge. Wuyue narrowed his eyes. He is not the character to sit still. If the opponent just wants to punch or kick, he will endure it, but in the face of the number of ways to kill, he will never kill him. I see. At the moment when the opponent's kunai struck again, Wuyue suddenly pulled out her left hand and grabbed the steel wire tied behind the kunai. The body quickly rushed forward along the silk thread, raised his right hand, and punched out. Yui obviously didn't expect that the other party broke his tricks so quickly. But her fighting talent is also not bad. She reacted in an instant. She stepped back with a single step, and her body took a few steps back. Leaf whirlwind. Gaining power was unforgiving. Wuyue bullied her body again, and attacked Yui's lower abdomen with her right leg in a sweeping momentum. Bang! A muffled sound. Wuyue stood on the spot with a slightly stunned look on her face. Turned out, was stopped. Yes. Although Yui's body took a few steps back again, her arms also felt a little swollen due to the huge anti-vibration force. But she did block Wuyue's attack. This made Wuyue really a little surprised. Earlier, Yui's words had a slight demeanor of taijutsu. Therefore, in the case of Wuyue's preconceived notions, I thought that the other party's physical training was just average. But I never thought that the other party's physical quality far exceeded my expectations. Is this an all-around genius? And just when Wuyue was in a daze, Yui suddenly said, "Your physical skills are a bit stronger than I expected. If you only use conventional methods, I'm afraid I really won't be your opponent." So. As she spoke, she doubled. The arm was slowly raised, and the 10 fingers kept changing their postures. She is sealing. And the speed is very fast, and it is completed in the blink of an eye. Art fire escaped fireball. The cheeks bulged high, Yui opened, and a dark red flame ball spurted out. Before the fireball arrived, Wuyue felt a scorching hot breath coming towards her. A strong sense of crisis runs from the spine to the brain. Bang! A loud bang. The How fireball hit the spot where he was, billowing smoke and dust filled the air, and countless sparks scattered. Dodge. Yui instinctively felt that it was impossible for the other party to stand there foolishly with her own ninjutsu, so she looked around, looking for Wuyue's figure. Swish. But at this moment, Wuyue suddenly rushed out of the smoke and swooped towards Yui. What? Yui's originally indifferent eyes finally revealed a little surprise. In her dark eyes, a fist with obvious burn marks quickly enlarged. No, not just fists. At this time, Wuyue's hair and clothes were obviously burned with traces, and her cheeks were also a little gray. He really used Ro to resist Yui's ninjutsu. Chapter 0008 Sudden Shura Field. Call. The fist wind blew the bangs on Yui's forehead. Wuyue's fist finally stopped in front of her eyebrows. At the same time, a pitch-black kunai also touched Wuyue's Xiong chamber. Common sense, even if Yui is the strongest of the ninja school, it is impossible to react in such a short time, and can cause such an effective counterattack. But when he saw those scarlet pupils, Wuyue was relieved. Right round eyes. Even if it is just a single hook, it can also form a super dynamic vision. In addition, Wuyue's taijutsu is at the level of elite ninja, and it is normal for the opponent's body to keep up. I didn't expect that Senior Yui would even wake up with the riding wheel. Withdrawing his fist, Wuyue said very single, "Since this is the case, I will admit defeat." He didn't want to continue entanglement. Moreover, in the face of the restraint of Shirinyan, it is really not much use just for primary physical skills. But Yui disagreed with this point of view, shook his head slightly and said, "These eyes were awakened at the last moment. Besides, I don't have much chakra anymore, I lost this battle." Ha! Wuyue looked startled. This lowly, unexpectedly awakened the riding wheel in such a short discussion. This talent is really amazing. Are geniuses unreasonable? However, she did not expect that she would voluntarily admit defeat, which was somewhat unexpected for Wuyue. Is this honesty outside of the cold attribute? But in the next moment, Wuyue's color changed suddenly. I saw a certain black long and straight little lowly indifferently stuffing her hands into her skirt, and then slowly to aid down her little fat times along her legs and roots. That is, the white bear fat times. This cold senior actually still has such a hobby. Seeing this, Wuyue suddenly reacted, and quickly turned her back and said, "Previous, senior, you are. Fulfill your promise." Little lowly said indifferently, "Also, don't call senior, just call me senior." Everyone said it was just a joke. Wuyue covered her face and said, "Also, I didn't really beat you. Would it be okay for us to draw? Losing is losing, and winning is winning." Little lowly said unmoved, "I lost this time, it's good to win you next time." And next time? No moon full head black line. Don't come again, my little heart can't stand it at all. If this is seen, how can we be human? Here. Just when he looked sad, Yui had already handed Fatty over from behind. Really bear? Wuyue took it subconsciously, and then she reacted. "No, it's not like that. I should refuse righteously, why would I hold it in my hand? Choose, dear host. 1. Stuff the fat times into the zui and chew it back and forth like chewing gum. 2nd, take off your and put on the little bear fat times in front of the little lowly. 3rd, stick the fat time tightly to your nose and feel the beautiful smell of lowly. Dog days system, day/your brother-in-law. Wu Yue was speechless and choked, with 2 lines of kelp tears flowing, her hands trembling, she pressed Fatty to the bridge of her nose and took a hard breath. Congratulations to the host for completing the options, the learning speed of ninjutsu, taijutsu, and illusion has doubled. The reward this time seems to be different from the previous tips for increasing cultivation. Increase the learning speed of ninjutsu, taijutsu, and illusion. Is it going to be so insane? According to this calculation, this time you still make money? No. Absolutely not. Otherwise, you will definitely get lost on the road of life. Thinking of this, Wu Yue suddenly shuddered, turned around, and folded her hands together. Yes, I'm sorry, senior sister. It caused you trouble. If you want to make compensation, I'm willing to do it no matter what. Accept. In his opinion, doing such a thing himself is no different from scum. This is of my own accord, so there is no need for compensation. Yui said calmly, however, I will come here often, and then fight with me to the fullest. Wu Yue really didn't want to agree to this condition. Having done such an embarrassing thing today, he doesn't know how to face each other in the future. But thinking of what he had just said, he had to bite the bullet and nod. Okay, if senpai can be happy. Well, can you return the fat time to me now? Yui asked lightly. Sorry, I'll. Before the words were finished, a familiar girl suddenly sounded not far away. Wu Yue, what are you holding in your hand? Click. Wu Yue turned her head mechanically, and what she saw was Hong Yuhi's pretty face with frost on her face. A condensed black energy filled her body, causing Wu Yue's inner alarm to ring out. Naruto's Strongest Gentleman Training System Chapter 4. Hey, I didn't expect it. Yuhika walked step by step with a dark red bento basket in her hand. You even did such a perverted thing. Tell me, how do you want to die? Will die. Must die. Why did my sister appear at this time? Why do I still hold other girls' fat times in my hand? What should we do now? How to explain? It seems that no matter how you explain it, you can't explain it. Wait, elder sister, don't be impulsive. Wu Yue waved the little bare fat times in her hands, and stepped back again and again. It's useless to talk, go to heaven. With the bento basket in his hand, Yuhi Hong smashed it down. Chapter 0009 The Dark Black History. In the evening, Yuhi's house. Hey, it hurts. In the bedroom, Wu Yue grinned. With several bumps on his head, he looked like a Buddha walking in the world. You know it hurts. You deserve it. Although Yuhi Hong, who was applying medicine on his face, said so, he unconsciously relaxed his hand. In broad daylight, you actually dare to take off other people's fat times. Forget it. Wu Yue hurriedly argued, No, they all say it was a misunderstanding. What kind of misunderstanding is it that makes you hold other people's fat times in your hands, but you can tell me about it? Hong Yuhi looked at him lightly, and said, Could it be that someone took it off and gave it to you? Sister, you guessed it right, that's it. This was Wu Yue's heart, but he didn't dare to say it. According to normal people's thinking, which girl would take off her fat times and give it to a boy who met for the first time? Even if he said it, I'm afraid Yuhika won't believe it, but will think that he is quibbling. Therefore, Wu Yue just pursed her lips and said, This kind of thing is really difficult to explain, as long as my sister knows that this is a misunderstanding. Yuri Hong stared at him for a while, then sighed faintly, It seems that you don't plan to look directly into your heart, so how long will you hide from me? Did she find something? Wu Yue trembled in her heart and pretended to be calm. Sister, what do you mean by that? I have already consulted with Aunt Mixie next door, and she said that your symptoms are a sign that your perverted nature is about to awaken. What is the sign of the awakening of the perverted attribute? She is the pervert, okay. Wu Yue subconsciously became excited when she heard the name of Meishi. No wonder. After all, that wife was his childhood nightmare. Every time she hears her name, Wu Yue recalls the humiliation of being numb by being played that day. Wu Yue, don't give up the treatment. Yu Hong said with both hands on his shoulders. I don't know where to complain about what you said. I'm not sick, really. Wu Yue scratched her hair irritably, and said loudly, also, can you? Don't run next door, that woman is a devil. Don't get too close to her. Why? Hong Yuhi blinked and said, Aunt Meishi is very nice, and she is also a well-known writer and knows a lot. What well-known writer? She is just the creator of Zio Wangshu. Wu Yue retorted loudly. It's completely the female version of Jiraiya, the pervert of Shotokan. You bastard, what qualifications do you have to speak of others? Kurenai Yuhi rolled his eyes at him. Besides, perverted or something. Since Uncle Zixiao passed away, Aunt Meishi has been very pitiful, so don't speak ill of her. There seems to be no necessary relationship between the two. Wu Yue said with a black line on his head, just because it is pitiful, can it be unscrupulous and perverted? It's said that you are not qualified to talk about others. Yu Rihong tapped on his head again and said, I have promised Aunt Meishi to take you to her house for treatment in 2 days. I'm not going. Wu Yue firmly refused. There was the deepest nightmare in his heart, and he was not sick at all. Rejection is invalid. If you dare not, I'll knock you out and tie you up. Hong Yuhi shook her little fist and said, besides, you haven't seen Hongdo for a long time. That little girl, but I look forward to seeing you every day. Speaking of red beans, Wu Yue's expression finally calmed down. In my mind, there is a little girl of 4 or 5 years old who sticks to the back of her and shouts Oni-chan every day. Speaking of which, he really hadn't seen her for a long time. Okay, I see. But after the end of the year-end assessment. Well, that's it. I'll go down to eat first, and you can come down after a rest. And many more. Wu Yue suddenly stopped Yuhika, who was about to leave. That, my elder sister. I want to ask you something. He suddenly remembered the skills that he acquired today to accelerate the learning efficiency, and planned to ask his sister to borrow 2 ninjutsu scrolls to try. Huh? Is there something wrong? Kurenai Yuhi turned her head and looked at him with a very subtle look. Are you planning to do something bad to me again? I'm really not a pervert, why do you say such a thing? Wu Yue covered her chest, and suddenly felt her heart hurt. Actually, I just wanted to choose, dear host. 1. I just want my sister to give me a camisole you wore. 2. I just want the soles of Sister Tian's feet. 3. I just want to dance a pole striptease to show my sister. Puff. Wu Yue suddenly fell to the ground, her face became extremely pale. Word by word, I just want the soles of Sister Tian's feet. Sure enough, your perverted disease is really serious. The blue veins on Yue Hong's forehead burst out, and she trampled Wu Yue's skull with her feet. Then, he turned away without looking back. Ha ha ha. Wu Yue was lying on the floor with her whole body gray and white, her eyes became extremely empty, and a permeating laughter came out of her mouth. Congratulations to the host for completing the option, and rewarding the body for 10 days. The system's prompt sound clearly sounded in his mind, as if it was some kind of malicious mockery. Chapter 0010 Ninjutsu Learning. After dinner, Yuhi's study. Do you want a ninjutsu scroll? Looking at his adopted son calmly, Yuhi Zhenhong asked lightly. Is your chakra enough to release ninjutsu? N. Wu Yue nodded and replied softly, low-level ninjutsu shouldn't be a problem. In 2 days, the year-end assessment will be completed. I hope to improve my strength quickly. Disgusting eyes, so he finally found Yuhi Mahong and expressed his wishes. Really? Yuhi Mahong was silent for a moment, then pointed to the bookcase on the right and said, Ninjutsu below B rank are all in the drawer in the second row, you can choose it yourself. Kara. As the drawer door opened, rows of black and red scrolls appeared in front of Wu Yue's eyes. The covers of these scrolls are marked with Chinese characters. Most of them are allusions with the word phantom written on them, followed by fire escape. Wu Yue didn't have high ambitions, but just randomly chose 2 kinds of fire escapes, 1 kind of illusion. But he didn't know that the choice he made Yuhi Jinhong, who was staring at him, shook his head slightly, as if he was not optimistic about it. No wonder Yuhi Mako has such an expression. Ninjutsu. Especially low-level ninjutsu, it is really easy to learn. But it is not easy to really master it and use it flexibly. It takes enough time to practice and understand. Then, it was so difficult to master only one ninjutsu, not to mention Wuyue chose 3 kinds directly. In Yuhi's eyes, his adopted son really has the talent to become a ninja. After all, being able to raise chakra to the level where ninjutsu can be released in such a short period of time is obviously not something that mediocrity can do. But if you want to fully master these 3 kinds of ninjutsu, even a genius, I'm afraid it will take half a month. At this time, Yuhi Mako's standard for genius was measured by herself, but she did not mean to look down on Wuyue in the slightest. After all, when he was young, he was also a teenager who was dubbed genius. However, even if she was not optimistic, Yuhi Mahong didn't say anything to remind her. In his education for children, he advocates letting things go, and there will never be too much interference. Wuyue naturally didn't know the inner thoughts of his adoptive father. After he got the scroll he wanted, he had returned to his room with great joy, and couldn't wait to read it. 5 days later, Konoha training ground. Then, I'll leave it to my father. Go ahead, let me see your results. Wuyue and Yuhi Mako stood at a stalemate, while Yuhika sat under the shade of a tree not far away, with a look of anticipation in her eyes. She also wanted to know what her younger brother had learned by hiding in his room after sleeping and eating for the past few days. Without further nonsense, Wuyue moved her hands together and quickly formed the seal. Fire escape, the technique of how to fireball. His cheeks bulged, and a fiery fireball burst out. Fast not printing speed, very good angle of attack. Yuhi Jinhong nodded approvingly. Not to mention other things, just based on the effect of this magnificent fireball technique, Wuyue is enough to be called very talented. Choke. Standing still, Yuhi Mako pulled out the ninja sword behind her, and slashed out from top to bottom. Rumble. The knife on directly split the entire fireball from the middle, and countless sparks flew in all directions. But behind the dissipated fireball, Wuyue's figure disappeared. Immediately afterwards, a strong wind came from behind Yuhi's head. Leaf whirlwind. Yuhi Jinhong raised her brows, stretched out her right hand, swiftly as lightning, and grabbed Wuyue's ankle. As if he had expected it long ago, Wuyue suddenly turned over in mid-air without a hit, and at the same time threw a punch at Yuhi's face. In this case, Yuhi Mako had to let go of his right hand, leaned back slightly, and blocked Wuyue's fist with his left hand. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Wuyue bullied himself up, punching, elbowing, and whipping his legs, all of which he used to greet his adoptive father. Bang! When facing Wuyue's whipped leg again, Yuhi Jinhong involuntarily took 2 steps back, a look of surprise in her eyes. I really can't think of it, you actually still have this level of physical skills. It's far worse than father. Wuyue replied humbly. Amazing. Is Wuyue already that strong? Red Yuhi, who was beside him, was a little stunned. Even if his father didn't counterattack, he just passively blocked, but being able to force him to move, this is already a very remarkable thing. No, you are talented enough. Yuhi Jinhong shook his head and said, I didn't have the strength you have when I was your age. Thank you for your praise, father, then I will be serious. Wuyue smiled and said. What? Yuhi's red eyes narrowed. Are you serious? Could it be that he hit his strength just now? Sure enough, just as Wuyue's voice fell, his figure suddenly became distorted, and the dark figures came out of his body like bubbles. This is the art of the Kasumi servant. Yuhi Jinhong obviously did not expect that the other party was not only proficient in fireballs and physical arts, but even this illusion can be used so delicately. But after all, he was an elite-level jonin, and he reacted in just a moment, and said softly, solution. Boo! Just like a broken mirror, the black figures around him suddenly disappeared, as if they had never appeared. But at the moment when the scene changed, several fireballs suddenly struck with a scorching aura. Chapter 0011 Enchanting. Monster. Can't escape. Yuhi Jinhong instantly judged that these fireballs seemed to be invading along a certain trajectory. Although the speed was not fast, it had already locked him firmly. This is. Looking down, Yuhi Mahong finally saw several chakra threads stuck to his arms. Those few fireballs hit his direction precisely along the silk thread. It was so. When you attacked with physical techniques just now, did you already count this step? A flash of shock flashed in Yuhi's red eyes. Although there are some factors that underestimate the enemy, he can escape the observation of his elite Hunin and set such a sophisticated trap. This fighting talent is simply terrifying and shocking. You child, you are really amazing. Zue let out such a sigh, but Yuhi Jinhong's hand movements were not slow, and completed the seal at a speed that was indistinguishable to the eyes. Wind escape, wind blade flash. Zuiba opened, and a dark blue wind blade suddenly shot out. Puff. The wind blade, with its invincible power, directly smashed those fireballs away. At the same time, those chakra threads also broke off one by one and fell to the ground. Base. After the wind blade defeated those fireballs, the castration continued unabated. At a very fast speed, he swiped from Wuyue's side, and smashed the giant trees behind him directly into two pieces, and this dissipated. This guy can actually force his father to use ninjutsu. In Yuhika's eyes, this is simply incredible. You know, it's only been less than a week since Wuyue started practicing chakra. 1 week. He completely crushed his efforts since he was 6 years old. No, it's not just me, looking at Wuyue's current strength. Even those third graders of the ninja school will be hanged and beaten by him. Wuyue didn't know what Yuhi Hong was thinking, but her face was still very calm. Seeing the gap between himself and the elite jonin, he did not feel any complacency, but a deep sense of urgency rose. I have to admit, your performance today surprised me. Yuhi Jinhong also looked at him faintly, and said seriously, I take back my previous thoughts, you are indeed not a genius in the general sense. Even if you are called a monster, it is not an exaggeration. But now, your chakra volume has already it's not enough. As he spoke, his hands were still knitting together quickly. Today, I'm going to teach you a lesson. Never give your best until the last moment. Yuhi Jinhong was a temporary intention. He has seen too many fallen geniuses, so he doesn't want his children to be one of them. Therefore, he planned to let the other party experience the cruelty of fighting between ninjas. Water escape, water penetrating bullets. Naruto's Strongest Gentleman Training System Chapter 5. After the seal was completed, dozens of circular water bombs were spit out from Yuhi Mahongzui and blasted towards Wuyue. The attack power of these water bombs is not very strong, but it is enough to make people feel pain. Moreover, the way these water bombs attack is like the shotgun fired from the rifle, which is very scattered and has a very wide coverage. In fact, the chakra in Wuyue is not exhausted. But in the face of this water escape ninjutsu, he also has no effective defense method, and can only watch those water bombs about to shoot him in the face. Choose, dear host. 1. Release B-level ninjutsu, Hwadun Heoholanjutsu. Let your father redefine the meaning of the word evil. 2. Consume 5 years of life to release Bing Luan Wan. Let your father see what a real monster is. 3. Sacrifice your own soul, summon the Devil Lord from hell, and let the whole Konoha remember your existence beyond the dimension. What the hell? What the kind of option is this? Wuyue's whole body froze in place, her face full of entanglement. Not to mention other things, even I have never learned the art of the arrogant fire dragon, how to release it. Also, your last 2 options are obviously messed up. Can this kind of different plane really be used? Especially the third one, you still need to sacrifice your own soul. Even if the demon lord was summoned, he would no longer exist at that time. The soul is gone, who wants to be remembered? With a constipated expression, Wuyue tried to recite silently, the first item, I choose the first item. Congratulations to the host for completing the options and successfully mastering the technique of fire escape and howling fire dragon. The system's voice resounded in his mind like the sound of nature. Immediately, a very special message entered his mind. According to this message, Wuyue instinctively began to seal. A fiery feeling rose from his eloquence, causing him to open his mouth uncontrollably. Bang! The dark red fire-type chakra condensed into a huge dragon head, which appeared in the center of the entire training ground. What? Yuhi Mako and Yuhiko's father and daughter widened their eyes at the same time, as if they had seen something incredible, and their bodies suddenly froze in place. This is the B-level arrogant dragon technique? As expected of an elite-level Jonin, Yuhi Jinhong reacted in an instant. After the faucet evaporated all the water bombs he sent, it attacked him unabated. In the face of this level of ninjutsu, even Yuhi Jinhong had to take it seriously. His hands quickly formed a seal, and a cloud of blue-gray light lingered in his palm. Wind escape, wind blade continuous slash. Yuhi really read hands out. Swish swish, one after another wind blade is thrown out, and each time it cuts, it will take away a large piece of flame on the faucet. When the last wind blade is shot, the whole faucet is also divided into two from the middle and dissipated in the air. Middle. Puff. The moment the dragon head disappeared, Wu Yue also leaned forward and fell to the ground because of her loss of strength. Chapter 0012 Year-End Assessment. After an unknown amount of time, Wu Yue woke up in a daze. At first, he looked at his body in a daze, and then suddenly reacted. I was drained after only one B-rank ninjutsu. It's really lame. Shaking his head, he was about to sit up when he heard a squeak, and the door was opened. Immediately, Wu Yue saw Kurenai Yuhi slowly walk into the house with a cold face, looked at him blankly and said, "Awake?" "Ah." Wu Yue scratched her head, not knowing where she had provoked this ant. But he still subconsciously said with a flattering smile, "Yes, yes." "How long have I slept?" "A whole day." Yuhika raised her head, her red pupils looked at him coldly and said, "It's very comfortable to have chakra being consumed, isn't it?" "Uncomfortable." Wu Yue replied with dodging eyes. He already knew why his sister was angry, mostly because of his own oversight, which made her worry. "Sure enough, I just listened to Yuhi Hong's reprimand, you know it's uncomfortable. Then you dare to use that level of ninjutsu? You bastard, do you know what it means to the ninja if the chakra is completely consumed? Bastard, you bastard." As she said that, she shot and beat Wu Yue's xiong. At this moment, Wu Yue's heart was not annoyed at all, but only infinitely moved. It was the first time he had been cared so much by people in his 2 lives. This feeling is really good. Shen. Shot, Wu Yue grabbed her sister's wrist lightly, and was about to say some words of apology and gratitude, but the discordant voice of the system came in. "Choose, dear host." First, she said to her sister affectionately, "How could I die before I let you conceive my child?" 2. Take her hand and touch your little penis. And told her, for a man as big as me, chakra reserves are very sufficient. Third, the best of containing and living with my sister, push and fall along the way. Let her feel your tenacious vitality. System, one day I will kill you. I swear. Moonless gritted his teeth. Such a warm scene was ruthlessly destroyed by this dog system, which is so desperate. But when he was under the eaves, he had to bow his head for a while, hesitatingly said, "I haven't let you spoil my child. How could I die?" Silence. The atmosphere in the room suddenly became silent. Wu Yue blushed, embarrassed and wanted to get into the bed. But the system's prompt sound has not yet sounded, and he can only temporarily maintain a feeling posture. Yuri Hong's originally angry little face also flew 2 red clouds in an instant, pushed Wu Yue away suddenly, and stammered, Who wants to conceive your child?" You pervert." The voice did not fall, the man has stood up and rushed out of the door as if fleeing. "I'm sorry, elder sister. I was forced to." Seeing the back of the other party leaving in a panic, Wu Yue shed tears silently in her heart. Congratulations to the host for completing the option and getting the different dimensional ninja kit. Swish. With a flash of white light, a dark blue bag appeared out of nowhere in Wu Yue's hand. In appearance, it looks like a ninja's ninja kit. However, when Wu Yue opened the packet, she realized that there was a hidden mystery in it. The ninja kit needs to be motivated by chakra, and the mental power will enter the different space along a special tunnel. This space is not small, about the size of half a football field. If this is to be used to store ninja tools, it is enough to support a war. Isn't this the Hokage version of the space ring? Wu Yue secretly pouted. But I have to say, this kind of thing is very convenient. Moreover, it is not easy to be noticed by people. More importantly, at a certain moment, it can also play an unexpected role. For example, when others think that you took out a small kunai from your ninja kit, and made a corresponding defense, but you took out a large amount of giant Fuma shuriken and threw it out, and then asked the other party, are you surprised or surprised? Of course, apart from this simple usage, there are many other benefits that need Wu Yue to study by himself. Putting down the ninja kit, Wu Yue got rid of the distracting thoughts in her heart, closed her eyes, and started the chakra practice that she must do every day. The next day, early in the morning. Today is the day of the annual year-end assessment, so Wuzuki and Yuhihiko came to the school early. As soon as they entered the training ground, they heard a soft voice from behind, classmate Hong, classmate Wu Yue, you are so early. When they turned around, a little girl with short black hair appeared in their eyes. She was very delicate, wearing a sky blue training suit, and her baby face looked rotute. This little girl is the classmate of the two of them, and her name is Kato Mute. That's right, it's the full-time nanny who will follow the next 5 generations of Hokage around and hide from debt. Oh, it's Kato. Kurenai Yuhi narrowed her eyes and said with a slight smile, it's not too late for you. Kato Mute blinked and said, I heard, before us, it was the graduation exam for third-year students, so I wanted to come and take a look. Graduation exam? Hearing Kato Mute's words, Wu Yue couldn't help but be taken aback. In his mind, a certain black and straight senior sister flashed. Chapter 0013 The battlefield that is concerned by the bosses. Entering the school's training ground, the graduation assessment for the 3rd grade has already begun. At present, this period is not as relatively peaceful as the beginning of the Naruto plot, and the exam for promotion to genin only needs to complete the 3-body technique. In this era of continuous conflicts between major powers and local wars, what needs to be tested is whether the students have the ability to become ninjas. The best way to complete the test is to conduct one-on-one drills and observe the overall data of each student from the actual combat. Time passed quickly as the practice battles came down. The second-year students began to enter the field one after another, and the graduation examination for the 3rd year was gradually coming to an end. For the other students in the 2nd year, this kind of battle is undoubtedly a very exciting duel. But for Wu Yue, that's what happened. It even made his attention a little erratic. In the end, he simply closed his eyes and began to practice chakra extraction on his own. Until, the referee teacher off the court shouted, making him suddenly open his eyes. The winner, Yui Uchiha. Wow! The whole place is boiling. The effect of the campus idol is really extraordinary, everyone's eyes are projected on the black long and straight lowly in the field, and the expressions are either jealous, envious, or amazed. Of course, the most is deep worship. Senior Yui, I finally saw a real person this time. Well, it's cuter than expected. No matter how cute you are, it's impossible for people to like you. The gap is too big. As expected of the first person at the ninja school, he is so strong. That boy from the Uchiha family didn't even have a chance to fight back. There were mixed sounds of discussion around. Hong Yuhi, who was originally fond of this kind of gossip, fell into silence at this moment. Her eyes were fixed on the black and long straight figure in the field, and she muttered, so it's her, how could it be her? Obviously, she has recognized that this girl is the girl who was stealed by Wu Yue that day. When we met again at this time, she suddenly recalled that there was no anger in the girl's eyes at that time, as if it was an abnormal calm. It seems that some kind of fact has been accepted. It's definitely not easy here. I'm afraid things are not as they thought. Hong Yuhi had an inexplicable intuition in her heart, and her eyes couldn't help looking at the boy beside her. However, the young man didn't notice his sister's gaze, he just stared at the arena in a daze, and there seemed to be an inexplicable complexity in his eyes. This bastard. Is that girl from Uchiha's family that good-looking? Kurenai Yuhi gritted her teeth secretly. She felt that her younger brother should be attracted by a black long straight loli like some fellow men. I wanted to teach him an unforgettable lesson, but considering that this occasion is a bit inappropriate, I chose to forbear it for the time being. In fact, Hiroshi Yuhi guessed wrong this time. It was not just Uchiha Yui who attracted Wuyue in the field, but also the spiky-haired boy with a frustrated face standing opposite Yui. The boy was wearing a dark blue long-sleeved top and long ku, with light brown goggles on his forehead. It seems that because of the loss of the game, he looks extremely decadent. That's right, the boy is Uchiha Obito. Looking at his appearance, I am afraid that no one would have thought that this guy will become the nightmare of the entire ninja world in a few years, one of the hidden villain boss. Should it be said that fate made people? Wuyue couldn't help but let out such a sigh, and there was a hint of sadness on her face. With the memory of his past life, he feels like a sage watching everything. However, in the next moment, this sad expression disappeared instantly, and suddenly turned into shock, horror, and horror. Choose, dear host. First, take off and bare your shirt and jump into the training ground, singing, "How lonely it is to be invincible." 2. Stand up and announce loudly to everyone. You scumbags are still a hair, only the uncle is the strongest king. 3rd, tell all the boys present that you have received Yui Uchiha's bare fat time as a token of love, and tell them to stop making unreasonable thoughts. I'm so. Wuyue felt like she was really going to kneel. What a fool is not so pitiful. After tangled for a while, in the surprised and stunned eyes of Hong Yuhi, Wuyue put on her shirt and took a deep breath with an embarrassed face. Meanwhile, Konoha's Hokage office. Sarutobi Hizen leaned his hands on the desk, with a transparent crystal ball placed in front of him. The picture from the crystal ball is the scene of the graduation assessment. Hey, old man. The blonde beauty standing in front of him knocked on the table with some dissatisfaction and said, "You called us here just to watch these children play games. Well, I think it's quite interesting." The long-haired man to the left of the blonde beauty laughed hoarsely. This kid from the Uchiha family is Shajin's daughter. She is indeed very talented. That's right. The other silver-haired man nodded in agreement. I've grown so beautiful at a young age, I'm afraid I'll become an incredible beauty when I grow up. Shut up. You pervert. The blonde beauty reprimanded without giving any face. These 3 people are the legendary figures of the ninja world, Konoha Sannin, the blonde princess Tsunade, Langjun Orochimaru and the toad immortal Jiraiya. Cough cough. Listening to the conversation of his 3 apprentices, Hiruzen Sarutobi coughed subconsciously and said, "I called you 3 over today, there is indeed an important matter. But the news has not been confirmed yet, please wait a while." Speaking, he turned his eyes to the crystal ball in front of him. At this time, a strange scene suddenly occurred in the field, which made him wide-eyed involuntarily. Chapter 0014 Second Defeat. How lonely and lonely Woody is, how empty Woody is. A burst of eloquent singing sounded throughout the training ground. Including the Chunin teacher, everyone stared at a shirtless boy in stunned eyes, and their eyes were full of surprise and surprise. What kind of shame and shame is this play? Your brother-in-law really wants to die. Wuyue covered her face with her hands and ran around the training ground while singing. This strong sense of shame and shame even surpassed the black history that he had done by the wife next door. What the is this guy doing? Finally, a student who had regained his senses couldn't help but let out such an exclamation. Naruto's Strongest Gentleman Training System Chapter 6. What a flamboyant boy, with a good wave and swinging songs. This guy, in a sense, is indeed invincible. Bastard. It's unforgivable to dare to do such a maddening thing in front of Miss Yui. Others also reacted one after another, expressing their own opinions and expressing different opinions. Classmate Hong, your brother. On the stand, Mute was looking at Hong Yuhi with very subtle eyes. The latter covered his face, and a voice came from the gap, "Don't talk, I don't know him." Wuyue guy, didn't he know he was going to lose, so he fulfilled the bet in advance. In the 2nd grade, some students who knew the inside story couldn't help but guess. It's just too cheap for him. A student who had a good relationship with Sarutobi Asuma said. At the beginning, he said it himself. Take off all your clothes, bare them, and circle the entire Konoha playground 20 times. The entire training ground became noisy again. At the same time, the warning sound of the pit father system also sounded in Wuyue's mind. Congratulations to the host for completing the option and obtaining the title, Unknown Gentleman. The overall training speed has doubled, and the talent for changing the properties of fire, thunder and wind chakra attributes has been obtained. Very nice reward. Not to mention the change in the nature of the 3 attribute chakra, just doubling the speed of cultivation is already very terrifying. After all, Wuyue is a very talented person. Otherwise, even with the assistance of the system, it is impossible to have such strength in a short period of time. But now, this talent has been doubled again, and its effects need not be said much. The most important thing is that when he completes the options in the future, and then gets the reward of cultivation, it will not be as simple as a superposition of 1 plus 1. Of course, if Wuyue was to choose again, he would rather not have this reward. This feeling of shame is like being publicly executed. Student Wuyue, what do you mean? Seeing that his students had finally stopped, the second-year Chunin teacher stepped forward. Hold, I'm sorry, Miyamoto-sensei. Wuyue lowered her head and admitted her mistake, because I saw that the atmosphere at the scene was too warm, I couldn't help it. Get over it. Can't help it? Miyamoto-sensei twitched his corner. How passionate are you? Forget it, Miyamoto-sensei. The original referee, the third-grade teacher, came over and said, such an energetic child, don't scold him too much. It just so happens that our assessment is over, and the venue will be closed. Leave it to you. I'm so sorry, Oda-sensei. Miyamoto said politely. Oda shook his head, didn't say anything more, and left the venue with Yui and Obito. Before leaving, Yui gave a young man a meaningful look. She did not leave the training ground completely like her classmates, but stood not far from the side, staring at Wuyue quietly. Hello. Can you stop looking at me like that? I'm so ashamed. Wuyue's cheeks flushed, and she turned to return to the auditorium. However, Miyamoto-sensei's words made him have to stop. Wait. Now that you're on stage, the first test will start with you and Sarutobi Asuma. I'm here, teacher. Sarutobi Asuma quickly jumped off the stage and gave Wuyue a contemptuous look. Oh, I really don't want to stay here any longer. Wuyue drooped her head, her face full of ashes. But seeing Asuma's approaching figure, he finally made a decision. I'm sorry, Asuma-san. I've decided to do it quickly. Naruto office. The 4 pairs of eyes looked at the shirtless boy in the crystal ball with different expressions in their eyes. After being silent for a while, Zilai also suddenly said, this child, is the one that Jinhong carried from outside? Yeah. Sarutobi Hizen nodded and replied simply, his name is Yuhi Wuyue. Wuyue, what a very special child. Zilai also thought about it, and finally used the word special to define it. You guys are a bit sympathetic to each other, you're all guys who act out of common sense. Tsunade glanced at him and said lightly. Are you trying to say that I'm a pervert? Zilai also looked at her ignorantly. What's wrong with men being perverted? Don't be arguing. Orochimaru seemed to have found something that interested him, stared at the crystal ball and said, this kid's opponent is also playing. It's actually the teacher's child. The other 3 also turned their curious eyes away. At this time, Miyamoto has announced the start of the game. Immediately, Wuyue in the picture suddenly accelerated and punched Asuma in the abdomen. There was almost no response, and Asuma flew out backwards. Unknowingly, he fell to the ground. Chapter 0015 Shocked Bosses. Confused. At this moment, the 4 bosses in the Hokage office were collectively in a state of ignorance. As the son of Hokage, Asuma Sarutobi was defeated by the students of the same period in one move. This situation is too unexpected. So that the legendary ninjas who had experienced great winds and waves couldn't help but feel a little absurd and wrong. Let them all be like this, not to mention everyone in the training ground at this time. Except Hong Yuhi, who had been expected earlier, everyone opened their mouths wide, staring at the young naked figure in stunned eyes. There was a humming in my mind, blank. As the initiator of all this, Uyue didn't want to stay here to be watched, and turned to Miyamoto-sensei not far away, and said, "Well, can I go?" Miyamoto-sensei only reacted at this time, his eyes looked at Uyue Dao as if he were looking at a monster. "Yes, yes. You won. Victor, Yuhi no Moon." He actually had a lot of questions he wanted to ask, but his good qualities as a teacher made him bury them in his heart. Xiao ran over to investigate Tsurubi Asuma's injury. Bang! As Miyamoto's voice fell, a huge noise erupted from the entire training ground. No, yes. That Sarutobi Asuma was killed so easily. Shady. This is definitely a shady. I know Asuma's strength, even if it is not much better than those real ninjas. How could he be killed in one move? Maybe he underestimated the enemy, but I don't know. There are factors in this regard, but the more important thing is, that Yuri Uyue's strength is really strong. No matter how strong it is, this is too exaggerated. People were chatting with each other, and the buzz generated was no less than the moment when Yui Uchiha won. In the stands, Kato Mute glanced at Wuyu who was slowly leaving the stage, and then turned to Yuhika Red and asked. "Classmate Hong, you seem to have known for a long time that there would be such a result." "Indeed, I know that Asuma will definitely lose." Rubbing his eyebrows, Yuhika said in a weird tone, "But I didn't expect Uyue to let him lose so quickly." "Is it because of your relationship?" Hong Yuhi couldn't help but have such an association. She's a sensual girl, and she's also smart. Of course she knew that Sarutobi Asuma often showed affection to herself and what purpose she had. Although, Yuhika himself had sternly refused, but the other party didn't seem to care about it at all, and was still stalking, making Yuhika very annoying. Just when she thought this troublesome situation was going to continue, her younger brother suddenly said that amazing ideal in the class. It also made Sarutobi Asuma's eyes shift from himself to him. Next, the conflict between the two intensified and evolved into a gambling fight. Until today, Uyue defeated Asuma with one move in front of so many people. After losing such a big face, Asuma is afraid that no matter how cheeky she is, she will not entangle herself anymore. Thinking of this, Kurenai Yuhi couldn't help but feel moved. But he saw his younger brother walking towards him not far away, and the other side's bare-armed smirk at him. Kurenai Yuhi sighed softly. "It's a pity, this guy is a pervert." Konoha, Naruto office. After being silent for a while, Hiruzen Sarutobi tapped the pipe in his hand and suddenly asked, "What do you guys think of this child? Both speed and strength are beyond the level of ordinary Jin-nin." Orochimaru grinned and said, "To be able to reach such a level at this age can already be regarded as a super genius." Tsunade frowned and continued, "He only used one punch, and there is too little information to analyze. However, I agree with Orochimaru's point of view, this child can indeed be called a genius." Sarutobi Hizen nodded lightly, and his eyes couldn't help but look at the last disciple. However, the surprising thing is that Jiraiya, who likes to babble the most on weekdays, is now staring blankly ahead and muttering, "It's impossible, it doesn't make sense." "What did you say doesn't make sense?" Sarutobi Hizen leaned in front of him and asked suspiciously. It was only at this moment that Zilai also reacted, scratching his head, and said, "That's it. I drank with that guy Jinhong half a month ago. He also said at that time that his son could not extract chakra, so I'll help him find a way." "What?" Including Sarutobi Hizen, several people present were stunned. If Yuhi is not joking, doesn't it mean that it has only been half a month since the child was able to practice chakra? Shock. The few people present were the same as the previous Jiraiya, completely shocked. In half a month, from an ordinary person who has no chakra at all, he has grown into an existence of the elite level of ninja. This kind of cultivation speed, even the big guys present, have to be amazed. This is no longer a standard that can be called by the ambiguous and ambiguous words of talented. The proper genius has not escaped. Chapter 0016 The Mind of Accepting Disciples. Interesting, really interesting kid. Orochimaru was the first to break the atmosphere of silence and grinned. If taught properly, maybe he will become the next Namikaze Minato. No, maybe even an existence beyond Namikaze Minato. Impossible. Hearing that the other party actually used his proud disciple as a comparison, Zillai also subconsciously retorted, no one's talent can match Minato. Really? Orochimaru sneered and said, then tell me, at his age, does Minato have such strength? Can Minato change from an ordinary person to an elite person within 15 days? No, it's not based on what you said. Zillai also said with a red face, the growth of a ninja involves various factors. The talent shown by this kid is indeed amazing enough, but it will be hard to say in the future. Besides, no one knows if Shinhong was joking at the time. I don't think it's possible for someone like Shinhong to make such a joke. Sarutobi Hizen calmly interjected and said. But as Jiraiya said, the growth of a ninja involves various factors. It's really hard to say what this child will become in the future. If there is a famous teacher's teaching, at least he won't let him go down the wrong road. Orochimaru said with a smile. After talking for a long time, you actually want to accept apprentices? Why, can't you? Orochimaru looked at him indifferently. Sarutobi Hizen took a breath of smoke and asked lightly, have you made up your mind? Orochimaru nodded and was about to speak. But he heard Tsunade suddenly say, I don't agree. This child is going to belong to me. Sarutobi Hizen, Orochimaru, and Jiraiya were stunned again, and looked at Tsunade blankly. What kind of eyes do you have? Tsunade narrowed his eyes and glared back, is it strange that I decided to take an apprentice? It's weird. Very strange. Unimaginable. The three of them each expressed their feelings. No wonder they feel weird. After all, since Tsunade's younger brother and lover died one after another, she has become very resistant to the profession of ninja. Not only did he quit Konoha's high-level discussion group, he didn't even take the initiative to accept commissions, and he was either gambling or drinking every day. Not to mention the hassle of taking apprentices. Now, how can it not be shocking to hear that she actually has such an intention? You guys, do you want to fight? Tsunade twitched the corner of his mouth and said, forget it, no matter what you say. I've decided. In fact, if it wasn't for Orochimaru's sentence, maybe he would become a being like Transcend Minato, she would not have thought of the idea of accepting an apprentice. As the only female ninja among the three ninjas, Tsunade believes that his strength is not inferior to his two teammates. But every time she heard Zillai also compliment her apprentice in front of her, she would always feel very unhappy. It's like, at class reunions, others always show off how beautiful their daughters are and how capable their sons are, but you are a single dog without even a child. Maybe Orochimaru doesn't care about this, but for the strong Tsunade, this is simply unbearable. But helplessly, as Jiraiya said, there is no one in the younger generation of Konoha who can match the talent of Minato. This also makes Tsunade's mind to accept the apprentice only temporarily stranded until the appearance of Wuyue. This kind of thought rekindled again. After a moment of silence, Sarutobi Hizen finally said seriously, are you serious? Yes. Nodding, Tsunade said calmly, however, I don't plan to let him graduate early. And before I officially accept the apprentice, I need to have a comprehensive understanding of him. Well, I haven't done it for a long time. Instructor. Hey, I won't hear it wrong. Zillai also trembled uncontrollably. It is conceivable how restless he was in his heart. You, not only do you want to accept apprentices, but also plan to lead the team. Isn't it good? Orochimaru smiled indifferently. Jiraiya also couldn't stand his bland appearance, so he couldn't help but run, that was your intended disciple, but Tsunade snatched it first, isn't it very unpleasant? Compared to the so-called disciple, I actually hope to see a companion who can return to normal. Orochimaru glanced at him lightly and said. Well, it's true that you said that. Zillai was also slightly taken aback, and nodded in agreement. You two guys. Tsunade's face was a little unhappy, but there was a touch of emotion in his heart. At this moment, the door of the room was opened with a creak, and a ninja dressed in umbu knelt respectfully on one knee and said, Lord Hokage, top secret information from Sandine village. He took out a scroll from his arms and handed it to Hinzaki Sarutobi. Hiruzen Sarutobi took the scroll and opened it immediately. Just one glance made his pupils suddenly shrink. That's true. The ninja world is about to change again. Zilai also asked quickly, "Old man, what happened?" Naruto's Strongest Gentleman Training System Chapter 7. Sarutobi Hizen sighed and put the scroll on the table. "Take it and see for yourself." Jiraiya spread the scroll directly on the table, and Orochimaru and Tsunade also came over at the same time. Immediately, they all took a deep breath. The content on the scroll is not long, only a few words. The 3 generations of Kazekage are confirmed to be missing, and the regime is temporarily controlled by the leader of the martial arts faction, Chio. Chapter 0017 The Wife of Shota Controlling Attributes. Wuyue didn't know that he had not graduated yet, and his future had already been reserved by a certain blonde violent girl. Even less clear, the third ninja war that took place in the original Naruto plot has quietly approached. At this moment, he was standing in a daze in front of a homestay, and his immature face was full of entanglements. "What are you stunned for? Knock on the door for me." Yuhika slapped his head from behind and ordered. "Yes, can you not go?" "Sister, I'm a little scared." Wuyue turned her head pitifully, and said very cowardly. It seemed that the place in front of him was not an ordinary dwelling, but a lair of some wild beast. "Afraid of a ghost, you?" Yuri Hong grabbed both sides of his face and kept swaying. "Could Aunt Meishi starve you?" "That's not what I meant, the key is that I don't know how to deal with that woman." Wuyue said very distressed. In fact, he had a hunch in his heart that if he gave that woman a chance, she might really eat him. In another sense. "Anyway, it's impossible for you to escape today." Hong Yuhi's face gradually turned cold, and he said, "I told Aunt Meishi and Hongdo in advance yesterday that we will come to visit. Do you want to break your word? Do you want their expectations to fail? That's what you decided on your own, sister, why do you want to catch up with me?" Wuyue complained frantically in her heart, but she didn't dare to say so, she could only say helplessly and sullenly, "Okay, I'll knock on the door." Dong dong dong. The dull voice seemed to be hitting Wuyue's own heart. At this moment, he really wanted the owner of this house to go out and not be in the house. However, the ideal is full, and the reality is full of skinny. After a while, the door of the B&B opened with a squeak sound. A beautiful woman appeared from inside. This is a typical Oriental beauty, she has a soft and beautiful face, and a tight black dress wraps her slender figure. His jet black hair is tucked behind his head, giving him a graceful, refreshing and bizarre sense. Like a big sister next door, people can't help but want to get close to each other. But Wuyue knew very well that there was actually a demon soul hidden under the fraudulent appearance of the other party. Whenever he thinks of the dark history that made him extremely humiliated, Wuyue can't help trembling and shaking, and can't help but want to stay away from this female demon in front of him. "Oh, you are here." Seeing Wuyue, the woman seemed very happy, and the smile on her face brightened a bit. "Long time no see, Wuyue-kun." "Yes, it's been a long time, Aunt Meishi." Wuyue resisted the urge to run away, and replied bravely. "Come in, Xiao Hongdo has been waiting for a long time." Meishi opened the door and let Wuyue and the two enter the room. As if to confirm her words, when Wuyue just walked into the entrance, a petite, small figure rushed up. "Wuyue Oni-chan, I finally see you again. Red Bean misses you so much." "Me too, come and hold it high." With that, Wuyue raised her hands with just a little force. Aoni sauce is a lie. Although the feeling of being held high made little Loli squint at her eyes comfortably, she still rudely pierced Wuyue. "Since you think about red beans so much, why do you do this? Haven't seen people for a long time. I want to see you too, but I don't want to see a certain woman." Wuyue thought so in her heart, of course she couldn't tell the truth. "Oni-chan, I'm busy with the year-end assessment, so I've been training." "Is that so?" Little Loli was deeply suspicious. "Dang, of course, how could Oni-chan lie to you?" Wayuko lied involuntarily. Forgive me, little red bean, I'm Ernie Sauce. I really can't provoke your mother-in-law. Okay, since Oni-chan said so, then I'll believe it. From what little Loli said, she seemed to be really attached to Wuyue. However, this also makes Yuhihi Red very tasty. He said in a sour tone, why did Xia Hongdu call Oni Sauce when she saw Wuyue, and only called me by her name? Logically speaking, shouldn't you also call me sister? No. Little Loli turned her head away and refused directly. Why? Kurinai Yuhi asked unhappily while pinching her small face. Because Hong doesn't look like a big sister at all, she only bullies people and grabs red bean to eat. Who, nonsense. You can't eat so many balls, I just help you eliminate a little. Who told you that people can't eat them, but they are very powerful? Just a little kid, don't be afraid of the wind and flash your tongue and head. In any case, I will teach you a good lesson today and follow me upstairs. No. Oni-chan, save me. I'm sorry, O'Neill herself is helpless now. Wuyue cried silently in her heart. He had already noticed that he was locked by a bunch of eyes. And the source of this look is the mother of the red bean, Meishi. Chapter 0018 Still a Girl's Wife. In a trance, Wuyue already had a little enlightenment. It seems that her sister dragged Xiao Hongdo upstairs just to leave herself alone with Meishi. The reason is also very simple, in order to cure his perverted disease. However, my elder sister, your brother is not sick at all, he was completely trapped by the system. Wuyue, who was swayed by the routine, really wanted to cry without tears at this moment. With some dodging eyes, she looked at Meishi who was smiling but not smiling. Come with me, Wuyue-kun. Meishi shook her hand and said in a tone that made Wuyue very horrified, your therapy session is about to start. What to do, what to do? This is the moment of great crisis. Sure enough, run away. However, even if he ran away this time, what about next time? Wuyue suddenly discovered that he was facing a dead end that could not be solved. His eyes were full of struggle, but when he thought that long pain is worse than short pain, he gritted his teeth and followed Meishi into her study. For others, the study is nothing special. Just because Meishi is a well-known writer, the stock on the bookshelf is several times more than that of ordinary families. But for Wuyue, this is the source of nightmares. The birthplace of black history. For a time, his body trembled involuntarily again, and his pupils contracted. It seems that Wuyue-kun is very impressed with this place. Leaning on the chair very casually, Meishi smiled and looked at Wuyue, and said in a frivolous tone. Remember those pleasant past events? That kind of shameful black history, how can there be any pleasant feeling? Roaring in his heart, Wuyue pretended to be calm and said, please don't make such a joke. Is it just a joke? Meishi frowned, stood up from the chair, walked slowly towards the other party and said, it seems that Lord Wuyue wants to forget that memory that only belongs to the two of us. You, what are you doing? The calm expression on Wuyue's face suddenly dissipated, turning into a little panic. The body involuntarily took 2 steps back, and it was just like a gesture of being too small. Why don't you ask? Meishi licked her lips and smiled, of course I'm trying to impress Wuyue-jun again. Come on. Don't resist. Moonless clothes. Stop, stop. Wuyue quickly stopped. Choose, dear host. 1. Let the other party pay the debts with blood, and slap the other party's O and pie 100 times. 2. Bow to the evil forces, directly take out your little ding-ding and let the other party do it. 3. Look directly at your own dark history, and sincerely thank the other party for leading you to the right path of being a gentleman. The dog days system is actually creating chaos at this time. Wuyue had a constipated expression on Xiang's face. Looking at the hand of evil that was getting closer and closer to him, he lowered his head in humiliation and pretended to be very sincere, I'm sorry, Aunt Meishi. I don't want to forget that memory. I just don't know how to face you. Huh? Meishi was also taken aback by his words, and asked curiously, what do you mean? I actually thank you very much. Wuyue said insincerely, it was you who led me to the right path of a gentleman. At the end, there was a slight vibrato in his tone. No wonder. After all, Wu Yue is a man with 3 normal views. Saying such shameful words, his heart seemed to be pierced by countless sharp knives at the same time, and the degree of pain was self-evident. Congratulations to the host for completing the option and rewarding the chakra cultivation base for 10 days. The voice of the system sounded at the right time, but Wu Yue ignored it. But Meishi was silent for a while, then suddenly covered her face and said, "Allah, Wu Yue-kun. Are you confessing to me?" Table, confession. Wu Yue raised her head suddenly, and there was a deep consternation in her eyes. What kind of confession is this? Your brain is too big, girl. I'm very happy, this day is much faster than I expected. Mixie didn't pay attention to the expression on his face, and said to herself, so what should we do now? Should we kiss first, or get married first? Or, just have a child? What you said, I don't know where to complain. Wu Yue's corner twitched violently. He finally saw that the girl's brain circuit was completely different from that of a normal person. But, having a baby or something. Meishi scratched her hair in distress and said, she's still a virgin, female, and has absolutely no experience in this area. Did you still choose to have children? This woman is completely helpless. Wu Yue's head full of black lines looked at the other party talking to himself there, thinking in his heart. But soon, he suddenly reacted and asked in amazement, you said you are still a virgin or female? How is this possible? Although Wu Yue knew that Xia Hongdu's biological mother passed away early, the other party only married Midanashi Zixiao 2 years ago. But after all, she has been married for so long, how could she still be a virgin? Could it be that there are obstacles in his father's area of red beans? Huh? Did the fact that I'm a virgin or a girl surprise you? Meishi first looked at him with a puzzled face, and then suddenly realized, oh, yes. You don't know yet. Actually, my relationship with Zixiao relationships are not what you think. Chapter 0019 The story that the neighbor Jingtai had to tell. Actually, Zixiao and I are not a real husband and wife. Sitting back on the chair, Meishi said slowly, this superficial marriage is just a transaction. Trade. This word made Wu Yue frown. He instinctively felt that there was absolutely nothing simple behind this matter. He didn't want to listen any more, who didn't like meddling very much, but helplessly, Mixie seemed to be getting more and more energetic as she talked, as if she wanted to completely reveal her secrets. For some reason, I needed a relatively stable place to live. Zixiao also hoped that someone could take good care of his daughter. Then, I moved here as his second wife. Of course, the surname and age and so on, it's all faked by me. Hey, tell me this kind of thing, is it really okay? Wu Yue had a premonition that it was very bad. Just from Mixie's few words, he had already sensed trouble. If it's just an ordinary woman, why trade in this way? Why are you afraid to reveal your real name and age? Moreover, Matarai Zixiao's reputation and strength in the village are similar to that of his adoptive father. Even if he can't compare with Konoha Sanmin, he is far above the level of ordinary jonin. With such an existence, he still has to be secretive and help Meishi hide her identity. Could this be an ordinary person? It is self-evident what kind of trouble it will cause to get entangled with such a guy. But this is the end, and there is no use complaining anymore. With a deep sigh, Wu Yue said, then what about now? Uncle Zixiao has passed away, are you still planning to stay here? Why not? Meishi blinked ignorantly and said with a smile, I know, you will protect me. Don't do this, I'm so stressed. Wu Yue's forehead could not help shedding a drop of cold sweat. Not to mention that his current strength is the most elite. It's just. Is it wrong to entrust your own safety to a 7-year-old child? That, Aunt Meishi. Wu Yue felt that she had to have a good talk with the other party. Why do you still call me auntie? Meishi rolled her eyes at him and said, from now on, call me sister. Ah. Wu Yue was stunned for a moment. The words I wanted to say were choked in my throat. What do you want to say? Sit down and say. Meishi smiled. Okay. Wu Yue nodded. Looking around, I couldn't find a second chair in the study. This made him a little dazed for a while. Where should he sit? Idiot! Meishi scolded him softly, then patted her leg. Come here and sit here. Sweat. A few black lines appeared on Wuyue's forehead again. That's not good. What's wrong? Meishi stood up involuntarily, grabbed his wrist, and pulled him into her arms. My full name is Tsugawa Miyu. In the future, please give me more advice. Okay. The soft touch from the cheek made Wuyue subconsciously nodded. Immediately, he reacted suddenly. Wait. This seems to be a lifelong introduction. What is going on? You are only 7 years old, can you really do it? Hey, Wuyue-kun. What did you just say? Actually. Wuyue was about to speak, so that the other party would not only pin his hopes on him. But at this moment, a certain pitiful system sounded the prompt sound again. Choose, dear host. First, declare loudly, Meishi's Europe and pie are mine and will not be handed over to anyone. Second, say firmly, your fat times will be guarded by me in the future. 3. Gentle inquiry, are you ready to conceive our child? Puff. Wuyue almost spewed a mouthful of salt soda. No matter what this Nima said, this trip to muddy waters is for me to make a trip, right? Forget it, I'm starting to get used to your rudeness too. Shaking his head resignedly, Wuyue looked at Meishi. He hesitated for a moment, then his eyes became firm again. Your fat times. From now on, I will protect you. Naruto's Strongest Gentleman Training System Chapter 8. No. Still so ashamed. After saying this, Wuyue buried herself in Miyu's arms like an ostrich. At this moment, the posture of the two holding each other looks very strange. Not like siblings, not like lovers. Well, seriously, it's like a mother and son. Mixie didn't seem to realize this, just looked at Wuyue with some doubts. Fat times. Well, I just said it casually, don't take it seriously. Wuyue was shy and didn't dare to stretch out her mouth, sticking her mouth to Meishi's clothes and saying. Really? Meishi said inexplicably, Wuyue-kun, you have become really bold now. No wonder the Red Cross is so troubled. Sorry. Wuyue did not refute or explain. Congratulations to the host for completing the option, rewarding high-level kendo talent. Obtaining intermediate-level swordsmanship, Igai/. This time the reward is very unusual, not only with skills, but also with talent. In a sense, it's a big gift. Even Wuyue, who was pitted, couldn't help but look forward to it at this moment. This kendo talent, plus the bonus of skills, how strong is it? You don't need to apologize to me. Mixie's voice pulled Wuyue back again. Today's collection was very successful, and I have to thank you for that. Take material. Wuyue looked at each other with a dazed expression. Lord Wuyue wouldn't think that people will really accept your confession. Meishi blinked and smiled, you are too young now, when you grow up a little, people might it's really heartwarming. I'm not wondering about this. Wuyue twitched her mouth and complained, what do you mean by taking the material? Well, it's my new book. Mixie took out a stack of manuscripts from the desk and shook it in her hand. Hiss. Seeing the name of the manuscript, Wuyue couldn't help taking a deep breath. I saw that the cover said, The Story I Had to Tell with the Neighbor Jingtai. Chapter 0020 Threat. Time flies like a white horse. In an instant it was the graduation season of another year. This year, the entire ninja world was surging. The military strategies of major powers have also developed from behind the scenes to the front. And the fuse that detonated all this was that Sandine village entered the country of Bingchuan in a big way under the pretext of searching for the missing 3 generations of Kazekage. And on the border of the river country, there was a fierce conflict with the garrison of Konoha. The prelude to the third war in the ninja world has also begun. Of course, now Wuyue has no heart to think about war and peace. At this moment, he was holding a little fat on his head, and he was running wildly in the alley of Konoha. While running, his mouth was still shouting. Sister's fat times are higher. Even if I smell it for 100 years, I won't get bored. Damn! Behind him, Kurenai Yuhi gritted his teeth angrily. The whole pretty face turned red. You pervert. If I catch you, you will die. Congratulations to the host for completing the options, 10 days to obtain the chakra cultivation base, and 10 days for the physical cultivation base. The prompt sound from the system made Wuyue finally relieved. I can finally end this embarrassing and shameful state. Even though it was not the first time to accept this option, it still made him unable to face it calmly. In fact, someone who can do such a thing without changing his face is called a real pervert. I'm sorry, big sister. Wuyue, who stopped in her tracks, immediately bowed and apologized, and took off the pure white chubby on her head very quickly. Last month you wore my sling and walked into the men's bathroom. Today, is it fatter? Yuhika stared at him coldly and said, it seems that your condition has not only not eased, but has become more serious. The lessons I usually teach you are not enough. Sister, elder sister. Wuyue raised her head tremblingly, but what she saw was a fist that gradually enlarged. Bang! A loud muffled sound. Kurenai Yuhi took his chubby time and walked out of the alley with a blank expression. Wuyue, who was behind him, covered her eyes with frustration on her face. On the way, the students of the younger generation stopped and whispered when they saw the two figures. Senior, who is that boy? He looks so rude. Don't underestimate him, he will be without a moon. What, the guy named the legendary gentleman? That's right. Of the entire third-year female students, who didn't take a detour when they saw him. You'd better be careful, as he is staring at you and you're done. It's okay, I believe the seniors will protect me. Listening to the discussion of the people around, Wuyue twitched her lips, and the black energy on her face became more intense. Without this option, his current reputation must not have been the strange nickname of legendary gentleman. After all, during the graduation assessment a week ago, he was at the perfect level in ninjutsu, taijutsu, ninja throwing, and even actual combat. But in the end, what people remember about him is not his talent that can be called a monster. It's a series of bad events enough to make the girls feel disgusted. For example, it is commonplace to ask young ladies and sisters for chubby times, suspenders, etc. It's unacceptable to hit your chest from time to time and sing Conquest in the women's toilet. In fact, Wuyue's appearance can be called very handsome, and he usually behaves very mildly, not to mention his strength. Obviously such a perfect image, because of the addition of the attribute of perverted, all external conditions are in vain. Ugh. Sighing deeply, Wuyue only felt that her future was really gloomy, and she could hardly see any bright spots. Is this kind of life really necessary to continue? Confused. Wuyue's whole person was lost in confusion. Hopefully, after graduating from ninja school, things will change a bit. After comforting herself, Wuyue suddenly remembered that today seemed to be the date she had agreed to meet with Yui Uchiha. Thinking of a certain senior sister who was cold on the outside and hot on the inside, his depressed look couldn't help but cheer up a little. He said to his sister in front of him, I'm going to the training ground, so you don't have to wait for me to eat at noon. I'm going to see that senior of yours again. Kurenai Yuhi turned her head and asked with a strange expression. I'm about to graduate, go and tell her. For some reason, Wuyue felt a little guilty at this moment and didn't dare to look into the eyes of the other party. Just like this. Yuhika stared at Wuyue, her tone inexplicable. But immediately, she seemed to think of something and waved her hand. Forget it, remember to come back early tonight. I know. Wuyue breathed a sigh of relief, turned and walked towards the training ground. However, Wuyue, who rushed to the training ground, did not find Yui. However, a few teenagers wearing forehead guards noticed his arrival and walked straight over. You are Yuri Wuyue. The young man in the lead looked at him carefully and asked immediately. Yes, you know me. Wuyue scratched her head ignorantly. I don't know, and I don't need to know. The boy raised his head and looked at him contemptuously. I just have something to warn you. Miss Yui is my brother's fiancée, you are not allowed to pester her in the future. Chapter 0021 Lessons. No, fiancé. Wuyue was slightly startled, with a slightly stunned expression on her face. He didn't expect that Yui was only so old that he was married. Moreover, just looking at the young man in front of him, I am afraid he must be at least 13 years old. Contact his brother's age again. Is this a child bride? Hey, you guy. The young man didn't know what Wuyue was thinking. Seeing that he was just silent, he frowned and said, "Are you listening to me?" "Ah, sorry, I was a little distracted just now." Wuyue scratched her hair and said, "I take the liberty to ask, did Sister Yui also agree to this marriage?" "What do you mean by that?" The young man seemed to have been stabbed in a sore spot, and instantly became unhappy. "Whether Miss Yui agrees or not, does it have anything to do with you?" "Well, you're right. It really has nothing to do with me." Wuyue nodded and smiled. "Well, I'm just a little curious, don't care. Put away your curiosity. A waste like you is not even qualified to appear next to Miss Yui." The young man snorted coldly and said, "Remember what I said just now, otherwise, don't blame me for being rude." After saying that, without seeing the reaction on Wuyue's face, he just brushed past him. Being threatened by someone with a gun and a stick like this, Wuyue felt a slight discomfort in her heart. However, based on the principle that one more thing is worse than one less thing, he did not intend to be more serious. But at this moment, a system prompt sound suddenly came from my mind. Choose, dear host. 1. Teach them a lesson they will never forget. And let the other party tell his hot chicken brother, "You dare to make up your mind, lowly, do you think you have lived too long?" 2. Cut off there and hang them on the door of the Uchiha family, giving the Uchiha family a tragic warning. 3. Silently squat down to take off their clothes and give them chrysanthemums. This is to let yourself do things. Wuyu rubbed his eyebrows with a headache. These 3 options. The second and third, he didn't even think about it, he just eliminated it. Whether it is cutting other people's eggs or offering their own chrysanthemums, this is impossible. As for the first item, he doesn't actually have any special relationship with Yui, at best he is just a friend. How did she get to the system? She became her own lowly. Forget it, it's pointless to complain about it now. With a sigh, Wuyue's eyes gradually became firmer, and she turned around and said to the backs of those people, "Hey, you guys, wait for me." Even if it is destined to become a hostile relationship, his tone is naturally not like that. Just so polite. "Oh. What are you going to do?" The young man's expression was still full of arrogance, looking down at Wuyue Dao. "Actually, it's nothing." Wuyue scratched her head and said with a smile, "I just want to teach you a lesson a little bit. By the way, I have a word for you to tell your brother." "Lessons, us?" The young man was stunned at first, then turned his gaze to his companions, who looked at each other, and suddenly burst into laughter. "Ha ha ha ha, shouldn't this guy be a fool? Little devil, have you grown your hair? Do you want to teach us a lesson?" "No way," my stomach hurts from laughing. It's really interesting that he has to ask Nanchuan to send a message to Brother Tongshen. I don't know who gave you the courage to say this. The young man named Uchiha Nanchuan sneered at Wuyue and sneered, "However, if you kneel down and admit your mistake now, I can be you didn't say it." Wuyue shook her head seriously and said, "That's not possible, I really intend to let you speak. You really don't know how to live or die." Uchiha Nanchuan suddenly became serious when he saw that the other party dared to reject him. He walked forward slowly and said, "If that's the case, then don't blame me." The hind leg suddenly exerted force, and the whole person quickly rushed in front of Wuyue, punching him in the face. Snapped. The fist stopped in front of Wuyue's eyes. To be precise, it was firmly pinched by Wuyue's palm, unable to advance any further. "Your fist is really weak." Wuyue shook her head helplessly, and said, "Not only is your fist weak, but your footsteps are so vain. Have you really practiced physical art?" Uchiha Nanchuan's face suddenly became extremely ugly. "You guy, you are also a ninja." He originally thought that the other party was just an ordinary civilian child, but he didn't expect to be able to grab his fist. To be exact, it's not an official ninja. Wuyue tilted her head and smiled, and stretched out her foot lightly. Bang! It seemed that he didn't use much strength, but he kicked Uchiha Nanchuan several meters away. You bastard, do you know what you did? People who dare to provoke our Uchiha, you are dead. Don't talk nonsense with him, take him down first. The rest of the people took on fighting stances and surrounded Wuyue step by step. Oh. Are you playing siege? Wuyue raised her eyebrows, her right ankle suddenly turned, and her body rushed towards the few people in front of her. Unfortunately, it's useless. Konoha whirlwind. In mid-air, Wuyue's body rotated clockwise, dancing her right leg, as if a hurricane was blowing. What? The young Uchiha family didn't have time to react at all, and they felt that they were hit by a huge force, and they flew out in all directions. Chapter 002 2000 Birds. Bang bang bang. The sound of heavy objects falling to the ground continued. In an instant, Wuyue was the only one standing in the entire venue. If anyone sees this scene, they will be puzzled and shocked. 5 official ninjas wearing forehead guards, and they are also members of Uchiha's clansmen, were beaten by a fresh graduate student and could not fight back. It can even be said to be killed in seconds. However, Wuyue was not at all happy, instead she frowned slightly. Is it possible to become a full-fledged ninja at this level? It's not even as good as asthma. If I knew earlier, I wouldn't have to use so much force. It's really troublesome. I wonder if Sarutobi Asuma would want to hit someone when he heard this. After all, he is considered to be at the top level in the school. Even if he is not as good as the pervert like Wuyue, he can still win the battle against the upper and lower ninjas, okay? Hey, wake up. Walking to the boy named Uchiha Nanchuan, Wuyue crouched down and patted his face. Well. Uchiha Nanchuan opened his eyes slightly and shook his drowsy head. Immediately, he was startled. It's you. What about Yuta and the others? Yuta. Wuyue was stunned for a moment, and then reacted, oh, you said your companions. Well, they are all there. Hiss. Looking in the direction of his fingers, Uchiha Nanchuan couldn't help but gasp. How is this possible? Why did they all fall? If you say that you are defeated because you don't know the depth of the opponent, you can still say it in the past. But Yongtai and the others clearly saw the strength of the other party, so how could they not take it seriously? But even so, they were completely wiped out. This makes Uchiha Nanchuan, no matter how he doesn't want to admit it, he has to face the reality. This is completely the gap in strength. The young man in front of him is definitely not the trash who entangled Miss Yui and asked her to teach the other party as he imagined. But a real genius. Naruto's Strongest Gentleman Training System Chapter 9. But no matter how talented he is definitely not as good as his brother. Thinking like this, Uchiha Nanchuan must have looked at Wuyue and said, what do you want to do? Don't you understand human language? Wuyue twitched her mouth and said, I already said it before, I want you to bring a word to your brother. What? Well, that's what you said. Lao Tzu's lowly, you dare to make up your mind, do you think you have lived too long? You. Uchiha Nanchuan was startled, looking at Wuyue in disbelief. He was not only shocked by the content of Wuyue's words, but also because this guy was gentle just now. Why did he suddenly change his face? What, is there a problem? Wuyue looked at him coldly. Of course, this coldness was only on the surface, and his heart was already full of embarrassment at this time. I feel that I have no face to face a certain black long straight senior. After the shock, Uchiha Nanchuan's face was full of shame and anger, and he said loudly, you guy, do you know what you are talking about? Do you know who my brother is? I don't know. I don't need to know. Wuyue returned the words that the other party gave him just now, and said lightly, you just need to answer, and you can help me with words. Kill me if you have one. Uchiha Nanchuan said stubbornly, when the time comes, the entire Uchiha family will not let you go. Oh, do you think I'd be afraid? Wuyue sneered. In fact, I was secretly scolding this guy for being an idiot. Wouldn't it be enough to say something, he had to be so troublesome. Forget it, it seems that if you don't come up with some dry goods, I'm afraid you won't be able to deter the other party. The voice fell, and his hands had begun to seal. The speed was so fast that Uchiha Nanchuan was dazzled. Immediately, a crisp chirping sound came from his ears, as if thousands of birds were chirping above his head. This voice came from Wuyue's right hand. In Uchiha Nanchuan's terrified and horrified eyes, a ball of lightning appeared in Wuyue's palm, and countless arcs cheered and jumped. The azure blue halo hit Wuyue's face, which outlined the contours of his cheeks extremely gloomy. Chidori. That's right, this is the Chidori that Kakashi taught Sasuke in the original book. Because of the change in the chakra nature of the thunder attribute, coupled with the theory obtained in the original work and the terrifying learning ability of Wuyue himself, this ninjutsu has been born ahead of schedule. The only ninjutsu created by the copy ninja was so shamelessly plagiarized. If Hitaki Wuokai knew about it, I wonder if he would cry and faint in the toilet. Bang! The next moment, Wuyue suddenly blasted the lightning ball in her palm to the ground. The whole ground suddenly trembled, and then, a bottomless hole appeared in front of Uchiha Nanchuan. Hey, you said that if I hit you, what would be the effect? Wuyue turned her face and asked in a negative way. Uchiha Nanchuan's pupils contracted violently, and his body began to tremble involuntarily. After struggling for a quarter of a second in his mind, he decisively agreed to Wuyue's request. After all, he was only a child. No matter how tough his mouth is, when faced with the real life and death decision, he still seems a little pale. If I had known this was the result, it would have been better if I agreed happily. Why is it so troublesome? Wuyue sighed faintly as she looked at the back of the other party leaving quickly. Because I want to maintain my ridiculous dignity on the surface. A cold voice suddenly sounded, answering for him. Chia, Yui-senpai. Wuyue shuddered and turned her head with difficulty. Chapter 0023 Graduation Gift. Wuyue stammered and asked, Shui, senior sister, when did you come here? Not long. Yui replied lightly. Just when you shot. Hearing the first half, Wuyue felt a sense of joy in his heart, but the second half made him feel like he was struck by lightning. Well, so, did you hear it all? Yui said blankly, if you were talking about the fact that you just announced to Nanchuan that I am your loli, I did hear it. Whoa. She did hear it. It's so eloquently narrated. So embarrassing. Wuyue covered her head and squatted in defense, loudly said, sorry, I didn't mean to. It doesn't matter. Yui shook her head and said softly, if it was you, I wouldn't hate it. Eh? What did you say, senpai? You didn't hear clearly because the other party's voice was too soft. It's nothing. Yui changed the subject without a trace. Just now, the ninjutsu you use doesn't seem to be an ordinary thunderbolt. Well, that technique is called Chidori. Scratching his head, Wuyue said, compared to the long-range attack type Thunder Dun, it is more suitable for use as a melee thrust. Chidori. Did you develop that yourself? Yui looked at him with burning eyes. Forget it, it's okay. Although Wuyue plagiarized the theory from the original anime, but now a certain white hair has not developed this technique, he should be considered an original. Yui was silent. Even she had to admit that this boy was a genius. A year ago, when the two met for the first time, their strength could be said to be evenly matched. But as time went on, the gap between her and Wuyue widened. This can be completely felt in every battle between her and Wuyue. From the very beginning, both of them fought with all their might. Then Wuyue began to hide some of his strength, and finally the opponent directly suppressed most of his strength. This process, Yui knew very well, but she did not expose it. But today, seeing the new ninjutsu technique Wuyue used, Yui already understood that it was completely impossible for him to catch up with him. Between the two of them, there is simply an impenetrable chasm. He, who is known as the strongest genius of the younger generation of the Uchiha family, is like a joke in front of the boy. Of course, with Yui's character, it is naturally impossible to be discouraged by this. Even if she can't catch up, she will try her best to shorten the distance with her. Wuyue naturally didn't know that the black long straight loli in front of her was full of emotion. When he saw the other party's cold face and said nothing, he suddenly felt a little furious in his heart. He asked tentatively, Sister, today, are you still playing? Yui then reacted, shook her head and said, "Forget it today, there will be a mission later, and I need to gather with the team." "Oh." Wuyue nodded, seemed to remember something, and suddenly asked, "Well, although it's a matter of senior sister's family, I'm still a little curious. That boy's older brother is really your fiancé?" Yui did not hide it, and said calmly, "Nanchuan's elder brother is Uchiha Toyama, the son of the chief elder. If my father wants to take over as the patriarch, he must obtain the approval of the chief elder. So the chief elder also took this opportunity to propose the condition is that only after his son marry me will he approve of my father becoming the patriarch. So it is." Wuyue did not understand the entanglement of these wealthy families, so she did not express any opinion. "My father didn't agree to the other party in the end, it's just wishful thinking of that guy." Yui suddenly said such a sentence. It seems that she does not want Wuyue to misunderstand. Actually, you don't have to explain it to me." Wuyue scratched her head. Although he said so, he didn't know why, but when he heard the other party's explanation, there was a hint of joy in his heart. Why be happy? Could it be that he really had that kind of feeling for the girl in front of him? Thinking of this, Wuyue shook her head violently. "No, my inner being is the soul of an adult, and it is absolutely impossible to be emotional about such a big loli. What I like should be that kind of mature big sister. However, when it comes to big sister, why do you think of Mixie again? That kind of killer is not his own food." Just when Wuyue was at a loss, the senior sister opposite suddenly said, "Your graduation assessment is over, right?" "Ah, yes." Wuyue nodded and said, "It should be divided into classes tomorrow. Well, because of this situation, I brought you a graduation gift." With that, Yui handed the paper bag in her hand to the other party. "Gift?" Wuyue looked stunned and smiled, "Sister, you don't have to be so polite with me." "Eh? This, what is this?" He casually glanced at the paper bag, and the contents inside let him like being struck by lightning. The pink camisole and the chubby little boy with a light blue pattern just lay quietly in the paper bag, as if waiting for his tragic fate. "I replaced it this morning, and it should still have my smell." Yui seemed a little uncertain, and frowned. "So why would you give these as gifts to yourself? In your eyes, have you become a salty and wet guy who can't live without being fat?" The corners of Wuyue's mouth twitched fiercely, and she closed the paper bag with both hands and was about to hand it back to the other party. But at this time, no accident, the system sound came as expected. "Choose, dear host. First, accept the gift and thank the other party for the hospitality. Second, take out the fat times and suspenders, put them in the underwear, and keep them well. 3. Put on this outfit directly and run to the central street of Konoha to show everyone your new outfit." Chapter 0024 Bold Ideas. "Many, thank you for your hospitality." Wuyue folded her hands together and said with a devout face. Although these 3 options, none of them are what he wants to see. But in comparison, it is still the first one that is slightly acceptable. "As long as you like it." Yui nodded calmly and said, "It's getting late, I'm leaving." "Yes." Yui-senpai walked slowly. Wuyue breathed a sigh of relief. "It's great that this embarrassing situation is finally over. You have to be careful recently." Before leaving, Yui warned in particular, that Uchiha Toyama, "I'm afraid he won't let it go. His strength is probably at the level of special tolerance." After speaking, she turned and left without the slightest hesitation. "Go. Are you particularly tolerant?" Wuyue raised her eyebrows and said to Yui's back, "I understand, thank you for reminding me." Immediately, she turned around and walked in the other direction. Congratulations to the host for completing the option and obtaining the talent for changing the nature of earth and water chakra. Get a special reward, the Balala Little Demon Fairy Suit, which has been stored in your different dimensional ninja kit. The prompt sound in his mind suddenly sounded, causing Wuyue, who was walking halfway, to almost fall to the ground. "Bah, what the is the Balala Little Magic Fairy Suit? Do you want to transfer yourself to become a magical girl?" The corners of Wuyue's mouth twitched violently, and she didn't know what language to use to complain about the weirdness of the system. There is only a tragic fuck to vent the restlessness in his heart. The sun was gradually setting, and the whole Konoha was immersed in a twilight. I'm back. The exhausted Wuyue opened the door and shouted weakly. I won't eat dinner tonight, I'm not hungry. You didn't eat at noon, and you don't plan to eat at night? Yuhika, who was sitting in the living room reading a book, squinted her face and said lightly. You guy, do you want to become a Buddha? Are you not hungry? Are you really not hungry, or are you being fed by that senior of yours? What are you fed? Wuyue wiped the cold sweat from her forehead, pretending not to know. Like this kind of pun, his sister has learned a lot during this period of time, which makes him a little bit overwhelmed. Forget it, it's nothing. Hong Yuhi knew that he was pretending to be stupid, but he didn't mean to expose it. With a glance, he suddenly found the paper bag in his hand. What's in there? Bad. Failed. Wuyue suddenly felt a little big head. I've been thinking about the Balala little devil just now, but I forgot to put this thing in the ninja bag. If this is the truth, I am afraid I will be swept out of the house immediately. With a sudden change of heart, Wuyue hesitated for a moment and said, This is the ninjutsu scroll that I asked Yui-senpai to help me make. Ninjutsu scrolls? Kurenai Yuhi frowned and said, Isn't our family's ninjutsu scrolls not enough for you to learn? Or, you don't care about your family's ninjutsu anymore? No, it's not. Wuyue shook her head quickly. This kind of ninjutsu is a bit special. It's a secret from the Uchiha family. In short, that's it. Sister, don't think about it. I'll go upstairs first. Leaving these words, he hurriedly ran to own room. It's weird. Squinting his eyes, Kurenai Yuhi looked at his leaving back, and muttered to himself, Will someone else's secret ninjutsu be loaned to you so easily? This guy must be hiding something. Humph, I'll go see you. What are you doing? Remembering that the spare key that he had hidden was finally useful, the corner of Yuhika's mouth curved, and a fox-like smile appeared on her face. Call. On the other side, after Wuyue locked her door, she finally let out a long sigh of relief. If my sister keeps asking questions, he may really be exposed, but fortunately he ran fast enough. Snapped. Throwing the paper bag in her hand onto the table casually, Wuyue sat on the edge of the bed and rubbed her face fiercely. At this time, another system prompt sounded. Congratulations to the host for completing the option, rewarding the B-level Fire Escape Skill Pack, 20 days each for chakra, physical art, and kendo cultivation. Wuyue was stunned at first, and then reacted again. This is probably the boy named Uchiha Nanchuan who brought his own words to him. His brother should be furious. Maybe you are looking for trouble when you are gearing up. It seems that we need to prepare. With that in mind, Wuyu's face did not show any panic or fear. Special Jounin, usually above the elite Jounin, and below the ordinary Jounin. For the current Wuyue, it is not a big threat. But Wuyue didn't want to show his true strength in front of others, he didn't like the feeling of being noticed. So he needs to do some preparation. He can solve this trouble while hiding his strength. However, compared to this, he really cared more about that Balala little demon fairy suit. With a thought, he took it out of the ninja bag. Just as he thought. This costume is exactly the same as what he saw in the animation work in his previous life. Whether the lace skirt, headband, magic fairy box or the matching magic fairy stick, all have been perfectly restored. Could it be that after wearing it, I can use the magic of Magic Fairy Castle? Looking at the gorgeous costume in front of her, Wuyue struggled, and a bold idea suddenly came into her mind. Chapter 0025 Magic Fairy, Change. In your own room, no matter what you wear, it shouldn't matter, right? Wuyue hesitantly picked up the blue lace dress and gestured on her body. It seems that the size is a bit large, and the skirt corners are almost covering the knee joint. However, if you only wear it once, it doesn't matter if it fits. That's right. Just wear it once and try it to see if it has that effect. So comforting himself, Wuyue looked around like a thief with a guilty conscience. The curtains were completely drawn, and the door was tightly closed. He even put his ear against the wall and listened carefully for a while. There seemed to be no abnormal movement, and then he relaxed. Naruto's Strongest Gentleman Training System Chapter 10. Quickly taking off her coat, Wuyue picked up the skirt and put it on her body. However, this seemingly simple skirt has an inner liner that is beyond imagination and difficult to wear. It takes about 10 minutes to separate the inner tank from the outer skirt layer by layer. After putting on the skirt, the boots and headbands are next. All dressed neatly, Wuyue looked in front of the mirror and was startled by herself. Although the skirt is a little loose, the dark blue bow headband and his delicate cheeks look like a little princess from a fairy tale, delicate and cute. I really didn't expect that I actually have such talent. Wuyue was really surprised. Although he is sometimes narcissistic, he has always been confident in his appearance. But I didn't expect that putting on women's clothes would have this effect. He should be the kind of boy who is full of heroic spirit. Why is it unexpectedly in tune with the special attribute of pseudo-girl? Wuyue couldn't believe the facts in front of her eyes. And just when he was mourning and complaining, he didn't realize that his door suddenly opened a slit. Women's clothing or something, it really is evil. This time is special and there will never be a next time. Wuyue thought angrily. In the mirror in front of him, at the same time, a puffed and cute face appeared. Your brother-in-law, is this really me? So embarrassing. Wuyue, who noticed this scene, immediately covered her face, and immediately, he suddenly realized. He seemed to be wearing the whole set of clothes, but no special effects occurred. Is it? Turning her gaze to the fallen magic fairy box and magic fairy stick, Wuyue thought to herself. Don't you need to chant a spell? It seems so. It seems that in the original animation, the transformation of the magic fairy can only be completed by chanting a spell. However, just wearing women's clothes made him so ashamed, and even chanting curses. What's the matter? Is it something a human can do? Moreover, what if the sister below hears it? With a hesitant expression on his face again, Wuyue thought for a moment, then clenched her teeth sharply. We've already reached this stage, and it would be a pity to let it go now. If it was a little louder, she shouldn't be able to hear it. With such an idea in mind, Wuyue picked up the magic fairy box with her left hand and the magic fairy stick with her right hand. She learned the movements from the animation in her previous life, raised the magic fairy stick above her head, and whispered, Balala energy. Hunala, the magic fairy transformed. Bang! A muffled sound. Wuyue looked down and saw that her whole person had not undergone any miraculous changes. The voice seemed to come from outside the door. He turned his head in amazement, only to see that his door had been opened halfway. And his dear sister was kneeling outside the door, staring straight at him. There were expressions of horror, surprise, and disbelief in his eyes. Lying, trough. Wuyue also widened her eyes and her mind went blank. I didn't see anything. Seemingly finally reacting, Yuhi Hong shouted and ran downstairs. Wait. Wuyue instinctively felt that if she didn't explain it at this time, she might not be able to explain it for the rest of her life. Sister, listen to me. It's not what you think. In desperation, he even maximized his speed. In an instant, he caught up with Yuhika from behind and hugged her waist. No, it's not what you think. You believe me. I know, Wuyue. Hong Yuhi couldn't break free, so he could only try to slow down. Everyone has some special hobbies. It's not surprising that you are like this. It's not a hobby. I don't have such a hobby. Wuyue retorted loudly, I don't like wearing women's clothes, and I'm not a pervert. Well, I see. Hong Yuhi nodded and said, let me go first. Do you believe it? Yup. Then you look me in the eyes and say, you believe I'm not a pervert, and I don't like wearing women's clothes. Don't make trouble, I really believe it. No wonder. Your dodging eyes have betrayed you. Then tell me, how can I believe that you are dressed like this now? Hong Yuhi's tone suddenly became excited, grabbed Wuyue's arm and said loudly, would normal people wear such clothes properly? There is a reason for this. Wuyue suddenly slumped. Hong Yuhi sneered and said, "The reason? Then tell me, what is the reason that made you go this way?" This. Wu Yue was about to speak when the system's options sounded again. Choose, dear host. 1. Dressed like this, you can steal and spy on women's soup without any scruples. 2. Tell your sister that you actually like Lily very much, and hope to have the opportunity to try it with her. 2. Although you are a man, you still want to be the world's #1 singer, conveying the power of love and peace. Chapter 0026 Illusion. 3 options, no matter the first or the second, say there is a risk of breaking your leg. But the third one involved his own principles, so he was eliminated first by Wu Yue. Then, you can only choose the one with lesser consequences. Compared to stealing and peeping at the soup, it really is Lily's hobby, which is more acceptable to my sister. At this time Wu Yue didn't realize that he had actually started to get used to it subconsciously, showing his perverted side in front of Yuhika. This kind of subtlety is so terrifying that he didn't even notice it himself. Taking a deep breath, Wu Yue raised her head, looked at her sister's eyes and said, "Actually, I am very cute, Lily. Wearing such clothes, I hope that one day I can kiss my sister and experience it for myself." Emma, what a pervert. Saying such words, even Wu Yue couldn't bear it, so she quickly lowered her head. Congratulations to the host for completing the option and rewarding a full set of Konoha-style swordsmanship. The system's voice sounded at the right time. On the other side of Wu Yue, Yuihong's eyes are very wonderful. His cheeks were even more red to purple to black, and he cried out in disbelief, "By Lily! You bastard! You really are helpless. You are completely helpless. Mo Lily doesn't matter, after all, it is a personal hobby, and Yuihong does not comment on this. But this guy is actually wearing women's clothes, what is going on to experience it for himself? Is this something normal people can do? No, don't call it normal. Even if it is a normal metamorphosis, I can't think of it. Hug, sorry. Wu Yue raised her head and said with tears in her eyes, "I'm really sorry for causing trouble to my sister." Hiss. Yuhika took a deep breath. In that situation just now, she didn't take a closer look. Only now did I realize that my brother's dress was no different from that of a real girl. Especially those eyes with tears in their eyes and the appearance of pear blossoms with rain, makes people feel a deep sense of guilt. What the is this? This guy, got the wrong tire. Kurinai Yuhi slandered in her heart, forcibly resisting the urge to hug him in her arms for comfort, and said with a blank face, "This costume was given to you by that fox." Yui-senpai. Fox? Don't you mean to say vixen? Where did Yui-senpai offend you? Thinking about it, Wu Yue felt that it would be better not to delve into this issue. No. I accidentally saw it on the street today and bought it. Really? Yuhika said non-committally, whether it's a gift from someone else, or bought it. You can return it to me right now. Go back. Wu Yue was stunned for a moment, her face stunned. That is something given by the system, how can I return it? What, is there a problem? Hong Yuhi stared at him and asked coldly. No. Wu Yue quickly waved her hand and said, I'll change my clothes and go out. The night was dark and the lights dimmed. Wu Yue walked alone on the streets of Konoha, her young face was full of tangle. It's not that I'm struggling with the handling of that outfit. In fact, when he first went out, he had already put his clothes into the ninja bag. Even if she went back now, Yuhika would not find anything. What he was struggling with was how to get along with his elder sister after returning home. How can I face it calmly when I was found wearing women's clothes and said things like that? Scratching her hair in distress, Wu Yue fell into deep confusion. At this time, a seductive voice suddenly rang in his ears. Are you troubled? In trouble that you can't solve? Wu Yue raised her head suspiciously, but didn't see half of her figure. What happened? Is this a hallucination? Come with me, Yuhi Wu Yue. The voice sounded again, as if it was an angel's murmur and a devil's whisper, and it was tempting to Wu Yue. I'll set you free. Oh, good. After a while, Wuyue's eyes that were full of spirituality gradually became empty. In his line of sight, a vague shadow seemed to appear, and following the shadow's fingerprints, he began to take steps. On the street, San Nin, who had just walked out of the izakaya, just saw his figure, and Jirai was also surprised. Hey, that child seems to be Tsunade's future disciple. It's him. Orochimaru nodded and confirmed, however, it seems a little strange to look like this. This is an illusion. What's wrong with this kid? He fell into someone else's illusion so easily. Tsunade frowned and said angrily. It doesn't seem to be an ordinary illusion. Orochimaru raised his eyebrows and said, this should be an additional seal, which can be controlled remotely. The other party's illusion skills are not low. Let's go over and have a look. Zilai also suggested, what kind of is he who dares to use illusions against his own people in the village? Let's talk first, just take a look. Tsunade's eyes flashed with worry, but it disappeared quickly. If this kid suffers a loss because of his carelessness, he deserves it. Zilai also complained, you guy, you are really strict with your own disciples. None of your business, stop talking nonsense to me. Tsunade gave him a displeased look. Chapter 0027 Civilized people should be reasonable. Wuyue's footsteps stopped at a river bank. The bright moonlight poured on the river, reflecting a silver-white halo. The breeze blew the surrounding dense forest, making a strange sound of rustling. Yo, here it is. A figure slowly walked out of the woods with a playful smile on his face. This is a young man of about 17 or 18 years old, with a head of light black broken hair, and his overall appearance can be called handsome, but his facial features are slightly feminine. This guy, is that kid from the Uchiha family? It seems to be called Uchiha Toyama. Jiraiya, who was hiding in another forest, asked. It turned out to be the Uchiha family. Orochimaru grinned and said, no wonder he is so proficient in illusion, is it because of the writing will I? This guy is not weak. It can be said that he is a rising star of the Uchiha clan. He is the son of the great elder of the Uchiha clan. He opened his eyes at the age of 13, and he has been promoted to a special shinobi at a young age. His talent is extraordinary. When he said this, Jiraiya kept his eyes on Tsunade, as if he was explaining it for her on purpose. Oh. You have a lot of information. Tsunade glanced at him lightly. You know what I mean. Zilai also looked at her quietly and said, I understand that you want to sharpen your own disciple. But isn't this sharpening stone a bit too much? When he thought about it, Wuyue was only 8 years old now. No matter how talented he is, he can't be a special Jonin opponent. What's more, the other party also has such a powerful assistant as Shirinyan. Idiot, do you think I'll watch him fall into danger? Tsunade snorted coldly and said, besides, you don't want to know why the Uchiha family would attack a child. Ah. Hearing what she said, Jiraiya fell into silence as expected. At this time, Uchiha Toyama in the field also walked towards Wuyue step by step, and the scarlet writing will looked directly into his eyes. When I heard Nanchuan talk about you earlier, I thought it was a great guy, but it turned out to be only this level. Wuyue stared blankly at the front, as if she didn't hear what he was saying at all. Really, it's really boring to fall into the illusion that I set up so easily. Uchiha Toyama sneered, raised his head slightly and said, however, this is also normal. After all, no matter what you are. No matter how talented you are, under these eyes of mine, it is useless after all. Now turn around and jump like a frog and show me. Wuyue was like a puppet on a string, turning around, squatting, and bouncing at his words. Very well, let's have some fun, the night is still long. Uchiha Toyama grinned, revealing a Morihon smile. You brat. How dare you say that to me, and you want to meddle with my fiancé? I'll let you experience what it means to be truly alive rather than dead. Come here, stand in front of me first, ruthlessly give me a slap. Wuyue walked up to him with an expressionless face and raised his right hand. Snapped. A crisp sound. Uchiha Toyama was stunned, as was Sanren not far away. Wuyue's slap hit Uchiha Toyama's face firmly, and a red palm print appeared on his fair and clean cheeks. Bastard, bastard. Uchiha Toyama was furious when he reacted. I made you beat yourself. Snapped. Another slap. The palm prints on Uchiha Toyama's face were immediately symmetrical, one left and one right, which was perfect. You bastard. Uchiha Toyama covered his face, his eyes stunned. He'd be an idiot if he didn't respond. Your illusion, unlocked. I can't say it's solved. Wuyue blinked and said, actually, I didn't fall for your illusion at all. The seal you placed in front of my house is so conspicuous. If I don't step on it, wouldn't I be sorry for you? Carefully arranged. Damn. You bastard, are you underestimating me? Uchiha Toyama was going crazy. Have you been toyed with by a child until now? In fact, I don't blame him. The main reason is that Wuyue's acting skills are so superb that I really can't tell that he is pretending. Not to mention Uchiha Toyama, even Sanran twitched slightly, feeling that his IQ was fooled by an 8-year-old child. Don't be so angry. Wuyue scratched her head and said, I think this matter can be resolved peacefully. Actually, I think Yui-senpai is still young and not suitable. Shut up. You brat, do you think you are qualified to be arrogant if you crack my illusion? Uchiha Toyama looked at him angrily, and said coldly, actually, that's fine, so you can see us with your own eyes. I saw the gap. Since then, I have accepted your ridiculous delusion towards my fiancée.